Chapter 394. Just like that, Yi Qinghan was detained in the ancestral land of the sorcerer tribe and lost his freedom. He followed the sorcerer tribe quasi-emperor all the way to the center of the ancestral planet. Dilapidated palaces towered into the clouds and were everywhere. One could imagine the glory of the sorcerer tribe. The blood-stained stone walls were filled with runes. The formation had lasted for hundreds of thousands of years and had not completely dissipated. It could be seen how terrifying the sorcery of the sorcerer tribe was. The young tiger man was very dissatisfied with Yi Qinghan. He looked at the calm back of Yi Qinghan and snorted coldly. The sorcerer tribe is not the endless universe. Once you are here, you must speak according to the will of the sorcerer tribe. Otherwise, I will take your life. Yi Qinghan snorted and did not argue with him. Instead, he followed Elder Wu into the depths of the ancestral land. Behind the countless dilapidated palaces, a huge valley appeared. It was hundreds of square kilometers wide and was surrounded by mountains on three sides. It towered into the clouds and was vast and majestic. An ancient aura filled the air. This place had preserved the glory of the ancient era. Although it lacked a charm, it was still enough to make people not dare to be presumptuous here. Houses rose from the ground. They were very simple and were all built from ancient trees. They formed a huge tribe. The Tiger Man tribe was a branch of the sorcerer tribe that took in the descendants of the sorcerer ancestor. He had the face of a human and the body of a tiger, with a pair of wings on his back. Some magihumans had already evolved to the point where they looked almost like humans, just like Elder Wu. Other than his wings, he was no different from a human. Back then, we had a total of 12 tribes, but now, there are only 8 left. The battle back then destroyed 4 tribes, and now, there are less than 3 million survivors. If we divide them into 8 tribes, each tribe has about 300,000 people. That's why our clansmen are precious. Every time we give birth to a clansman, we'll be rewarded with witchcraft arts and the witch ancestors' blood essence. Our clansmen are not allowed to kill each other. Whoever dares to kill will be buried with them. Our clansmen hate outsiders, so I hope you can bear with it. If you really can't, you can tell me, and I'll settle it. Yi Qinghan nodded. It was normal for a tribe like this to hate outsiders. After all, the tragedy of the past was enough to be remembered by their ancestors. Let me introduce you to the tribe members. You will be living together for a long time in the future. Old Wu was determined to detain Yi Qinghan, and brought him to the tribe. Upon entering the Rushu tribe, most of the people had yet to shed their Tigerman appearances. They all had the body of a tiger and the face of a human. Only a few of them had the face of a human. A few of them looked very young, but their combat strength definitely exceeded Yi Qinghan's. The Magus clan had their own levels of power: Novice Magus, Junior Magus, Senior Magus, Battle Magus, Senior Magus, Ancestor Magus. There were only 7 levels. Now, the Rushu tribe had more women than men. Many of the powerful battle shamans were women. They had a human face and a human body. They had a pair of transparent wings on their backs. They wore battle armor and held long spears in their hands. They had imposing auras and were not inferior to men. Battle shamans were equivalent to the god martial arts stage of the human race. However, their strength was not any weaker than the superclass in the endless universe. In fact, they might even surpass them. Yi Qinghan's arrival immediately attracted everyone's attention. Senior Magus, who is this person? A powerful young man came with a long spear in his hand. He was very hostile. His eyes were like scorching suns as he stared at Yi Qinghan. This is an outsider, a hero of the endless universe. He once fought with the dead spirit emperor and is qualified to live here, Senior Magus said calmly. Him. I can kill a few of these people with my spear. How can he fight with the dead spirit emperor? The young man's eyes were full of disdain and doubt. His soul and body are indeed not completely compatible, but he still defeated Hu Hua. This means that he still has some strength. Senior Magus shook his head. He saw through Yi Qinghan's nature and subconsciously believed Yi Qinghan's words. The dozen or so young men all had long spears in their hands. The tips of the spears were made of golden battle bones. They emitted a strong aura that pressed down on Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's long hair fluttered without wind. His battle robe fluttered as he calmly looked at this group of people. His state of mind was calm, and there was no trace of fear in his eyes. How could a great hero of the past be threatened by a group of boys and girls? Just based on this aura alone, he was able to fight against more than 10 experts without retreating an inch. This was enough to earn the respect of some people, and they no longer made things difficult for him. Some people introduced themselves, and some people reluctantly said their names. Yi Qinghan remembered them all in his heart. He cupped his fists and said, "I am Yi Qinghan." Humph. Most of the Magihumans turned around and left, not giving him any face. Senior Magus smiled calmly. He looked at the leaving young men and explained, "Most of them are the strongest of the young generation. They are invincible in the tribe and are on par with the young generation of the other tribes. They have always been like this, so don't mind them." Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded, "Senior Magus, if there are any places that I can't go, you must tell me in advance. Otherwise, I have no intention of trespassing. Please forgive me. As long as you stay here peacefully, there are no forbidden places here. If you can get an opportunity, it means that you are lucky. If you die in some dangerous place, it only means that you are unlucky." Senior Magus shook his head and turned to the Tiger Man, "Hu Hua, arrange a room for fellow Yi. Don't deliberately make things difficult for him, understand?" Hu Hua nodded reluctantly. He was very disgusted with Yi Qinghan. Moreover, he never thought that he would lose to an outsider. In these years, except for the top 10 young masters of the tribe, he had never lost to anyone. "Follow me." Hu Hua glared at Yi Qinghan and said coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled and left with Hu Hua. Along the way, he found that the witch tribe lived under the ancient trees and built a wooden courtyard. They were like ordinary villagers. Each family was less than 10 meters apart and lived in harmony. "I warn you, don't provoke the top 10 young masters, especially the second-ranked Ming Ke, the third-ranked Jiang Hengchong, the 8th-ranked Jiang Feng, and the 9th and 10th-ranked Hua Qi and Hua Li. The 4 of them hate you more than I do. If you provoke them, you are dead." Hu Hua snorted. "I won't provoke them. I will go into seclusion later." "Don't worry, fellow Taoist," Yi Qinghan said calmly. "That better be the case. Also, if others ask you how you defeated me, you better say that you went through a lot of hardships and were beaten by me. In the end, I exhausted my strength and was injured by your sneak attack. Do you understand?" Hu Hua glared at Yi Qinghan and said. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. This little guy was not xenophobic, but hated him for defeating him. "You are so humorous. A loss is a loss. If my master's original Taoist body was here, it would be no problem for him to beat the top 10 young masters." The parrot disdainfully rushed out and mocked. "Original Taoist body? What kind of original Taoist body?" Hu Hua was shocked and quickly asked. "You are so short-sighted. My master has the 5 elements Taoist body. In the future, he will definitely build the 9 revolution chaos Taoist body. Just you wait, little brat." The parrot said proudly. "TSK, the ancestral devouring spirit eagle only knows how to brag. It seems that it is true. What 5 elements Taoist body? I have never seen a 2 elements Taoist body and never heard of a 3 elements Taoist body. Do you think 5 elements Taoist body is everywhere? What a coincidence for me to meet one." Hu Hua sneered disdainfully. He obviously did not believe in Yi Qinghan's 5 elements Taoist body. Yi Qinghan shook his head and whispered, Daoist Hua, let's arrange a place to stay first. We are already here. This house has been empty for more than 10 years. I live on the left. If you need anything, just call me. Hua pointed to a courtyard. It was overgrown with weeds and it looked like no one had lived in it for many years. Yi Qinghan walked in and found that the environment was quite good. The courtyard was bigger than the average courtyard, but no one lived in it. He felt a little strange. He glanced around and found that there was a small pond in the courtyard. However, the water was black and emitted a foul smell. The fallen leaves were piled up and even weeds could not survive. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and removed all the smelly water and fallen leaves in the pond. The origin of water purified the lotus pond. He transferred the clean water from the underground and put a divine lotus seed in it. He also put some origin of earth at the bottom of the pond and began to weed the weeds in the courtyard. Hua leaned on the door and looked at Yi Qinghan working hard to weed the weeds. The corner of his mouth revealed an evil smile. Although there was no evil intention, there was a deep malice. This courtyard looked good, but no one lived in it. Clearly, there was a big problem. The two houses next to this courtyard were also unoccupied. They were very close to the foot of the mountain and were very far from the tribe. Although Hua lived on the left, there was still a distance of several hundred meters from this courtyard. This courtyard was empty and looked very strange. Yi Qinghan did not think too much. He was not afraid of the dead spirits, so why would he care about these evil things? Soon, Yi Qinghan turned over all the soil. He put some origin of earth in the courtyard and planted some rank 8 ancient herbs. The courtyard was immediately filled with spirit energy. Hua's face was full of desire. He wanted a few stalks, but he was too embarrassed to ask. Daoist friend, do you have a bed and quilt? Can you give me 2 sets? Yi Qinghan walked into the house and found that even the bed had collapsed. There was no decent furniture. It was simply uninhabitable. Bed and quilt. Of course, there is, but there is no free lunch in this world. You need to give me something in exchange. Hua opened his mouth and directly said, I can give you some basic furniture, but it has to be a rank 8 ancient herb. Damn, why don't you just rob me? The divine bird finally could not stand it. This bastard was clearly here to extort people. Yi Qinghan shook his head. This Hua was only 18 or 19 years old compared to the people outside. There was no need to take him seriously. Although a rank 8 ancient herb was very precious, in comparison, subduing this little guy might be more valuable than a rank 8 ancient herb. No problem, as long as you are willing to listen, there are many benefits. Yi Qinghan said straightforwardly. Are you serious? Hua's eyes flashed and he asked excitedly. Of course. Yi Qinghan nodded and said. Sure enough, money could make the devil turn millstones. Hua just resented Yi Qinghan for winning against him, but now his face was full of flattery. He personally ran home to take out 2 quilts and ran to the market to buy some basic furniture. In order to save money, he even built a bed and some tables and chairs for Yi Qinghan. Chapter 395. In the afternoon, Yi Qinghan made his little nest very comfortable. Before night fell, Hua ran away with a top-grade 8 ancient medicine. This little thing must be up to no good. Why do I feel that this room is a bit strange? The divine bird scanned the courtyard but did not find anything special. How can there be no danger in the sorcerer race's ancestral star? So many people died, so the Yin Qi is definitely heavy. There should be a powerful existence buried under this courtyard, so some unclean things will appear at night and devour the Yang Qi of living beings. But no matter, I have a way to deal with it. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. Unclean things liked Yang Qi, but they were even more afraid of the great Tao of Yin and Yang. Yi Qinghan poured out everything in the parrot's universe ring. There were countless treasures, at least 10 million mid-grade spirit crystals, a lot of high-grade spirit crystals, and at least a few hundred top-grade spirit crystals. Yi Qinghan did not want the mid-grade spirit crystals, so the divine bird collected them. As for the high-grade and top-grade spirit crystals, they were obviously cheated by the parrot. The divine bird was unwilling. Yi Qinghan's universe ring was in the ancestral star, and now the real treasures were in its possession. It had gathered so many treasures with great difficulty, but was it going to return to its original state in one night? Don't worry, I will compensate you in the future. What do you want to do with so many useless things? Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and forcibly took away the spirit crystals, ancient medicines, and divine lotus seeds. The divine bird was driven mad. It constantly flapped its wings and shouted. If it could beat Yi Qinghan, it would definitely help. Yi Qinghan did not ask. He curled his lips and said, "This is the sorcerer race's ancestral star. You can find many treasures, so why are you being so calculative with me? What treasures are there here? It's dead and the treasures are all hidden underground. I have to search carefully to find them. By the time I gather so many treasures, my fur will be white." The parrot angrily said. "You speak as if your fur is not white." Yi Qinghan was speechless. He took away most of the treasures he needed and began to arrange a large array to control the flame essence on the surface, preventing all yin qi from entering the courtyard. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, at night, the ancestral planet of the shamans was extremely terrifying. The wind howled and froze people's hearts. The sinister aura was more than 10,000 times denser than that of Owl War Planet. This was a place where billions of living beings had died unnatural deaths. Their resentment and stubbornness were enough to kill even the strongest experts. At night, the ancestral star was the world of the ancient demons. They devoured the baleful aura and cultivated their golden bodies. The tribe's formation was activated and golden light shone in all directions. Looking down from the sky, there were 7 other similar formations in the ancestral star. They were tens of thousands of miles away from each other, but they were all resonating with each other. Yi Qinghan made his house look like an iron bucket. He looked at the parrot and said, "Divine bird, I gave you a drop of my heart's blood before and told you to keep it. Why isn't it in the Qiankun ring? What are you trying to do? Didn't you say you were going to give this to me?" The divine bird asked in a serious tone as it took a few steps back, guarding against Yi Qinghan as if he were a thief. Yi Qinghan exhaled and rolled his eyes. "Do you want to leave and return to the imperial region or not?" "I don't want to." "What does the matters of the imperial region have to do with me?" the divine bird replied without hesitation. Crack, Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and took a deep breath to calm himself down. He said hoarsely, "Give it to me first. I want to forge a golden body of the origin of Earth. This Xue Chen's body is really not suitable for me. It restricts my strength. In this dangerous place, you don't want me to die at any time, right? If I die, what do you want that drop of heart's blood for?" The parrot was dispirited. It had a bad habit of hiding good things for future use. In the end, it would always be cheated by this bad master. It was like drawing water with a sieve. It had all become Yi Qinghan's wedding dress. "Tell me. How are you going to make it up to me after this?" The parrot roared. "Be good. In the future, the god-slaying eagle and the multicolored snake will be under your command. You will be the boss." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He had to coax the divine bird like he was coaxing a child. It would not back down without some benefits. In the end, the divine bird still took out that drop of blood. It did not hide it in the Qiankun ring, but in its own body. However, it did not fuse with it. The drop of golden heart's blood was majestic and vigorous. It was given to it by Yi Qinghan when he had just broken through to the divine martial arts realm. On one hand, it was to prevent accidents. On the other hand, it was to let the divine bird refine its body and blood. He did not expect that this fellow would not bear to use it. Yi Qinghan could still refine the true five elemental Tao body here. The heart's blood contained the four elemental origins and profound meanings. It did not contain the earth element or the water element. However, with the water elemental profound meaning and the earth elemental origin, it was complete. Fire. Yi Qinghan directly refined Xue Chen's body. The last trace of Xue Chen was also removed by Yi Qinghan. A wisp of Xue Chen's soul was entrenched in the courtyard. The fire elemental origin coiled around. With the living soil as the foundation, the blood essence was mixed in. He was ready to refine the living soil into a physical body. The living soil was evolving the golden body according to Yi Qinghan's will. Every vein, organ, and even every pore had to be carefully refined. The 8th rank fire elemental origin was roasting the golden body. Once the golden body was successfully formed, it would be a middle rank 8 body. The parrot stood to the side, watching the golden body being formed bit by bit. It could not help but sigh. Now, it was being completely oppressed by Yi Qinghan. It did not even have the chance to resist. Back then, for the sake of a blood ginseng, a single mistake could lead to everlasting regret. Looking back, it was already 100 years later. Blood vessels were constantly forming. Tendons and veins were being roasted and refined by the flames. Spiritual energy was stretched to the limit. If there was even the slightest mistake, this drop of heart's blood would be completely wasted. At that time, without a physical body to rely on, it would be like trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Time slowly passed. The first main artery was formed. His entire body also took shape. With the living soil as the body, it could change shape at will. Even if it was crippled, it could still repair itself and be filled with vitality. The profound meanings of the 5 elements intertwined. The 4 profound meanings of metal, wood, water, and fire desperately tried to fuse with the living soil. The drop of heart's blood transformed into blood and filled the entire body. Drop by drop, it gathered in the blood vessels. Under the support of the 8th rank ancient medicine, the hematopoietic cells became abnormally active. A night passed. Yi Qinghan had only finished forming half of the head. His soul had found a host, but the other parts were still illusory. The structure of a human body was too complicated. With the strength of Yi Qinghan's soul, it would be difficult to complete the reconstruction without half a year's time. Time passed bit by bit. One day, 1 month, the shaman tribe was still quiet. During the day, they would enter the ancient forests and even the savage forests to hunt for vicious creatures. Many of the vicious creatures were created by the shaman tribe. Unfortunately, most of them had already gone out of control. This was because many of the shaman tribe had gone extinct. These vicious creatures were created by them and were incomparably tyrannical. The Tigermen tribe would go out every day. The young experts would pave the way for them. The ordinary shamans would use them as the center to fight and kill. Blood cloaks, spears, and shaman techniques filled the forest. On this day, everyone had a great harvest. They had subdued many strange beasts and also obtained a lot of food. Everyone gathered together. Ming Ke was a direct descendant of Rushu. Her bloodline was rich, and she was almost no different from a human. She was a peerless beauty. She held a golden spear in her hand, and her aura was like a rainbow. She was like a fairy of the mortal world, but she was also swift and decisive. The other geniuses also had an imposing aura. That Yi Qinghan, why hasn't he appeared since he entered the tribe? He couldn't have died in that courtyard, right? The 10th ranked Huo Li asked curiously. Those who were able to enter the top 10 were definitely the best of the best. Moreover, they were the most powerful ones. Hu Hua, who was not in the top 10, was able to destroy Yi Qinghan's body. Let alone those who were in the top 10. Hu Hua, come here. Hua Qi waved her hand to summon Hua. This was a very valiant woman. She was tall and sturdy, even more manly than a man. Her voice was rough, and the spear in her right hand was very thick and long. It weighed over 10,000 jin. She was one of the most difficult women to provoke in the tribe. Hua's whole body trembled. He ran over and asked flatteringly, "Sister Hua Qi, what did you call me for? When we go back, get that Yi Qing Han out for me. I want to teach him a lesson and make him more obedient in the future." Hua Qi said in a muffled voice. "Ah. He has been very obedient recently." Hua was speechless. Hua Qi was looking for trouble. "What? Do you have a problem? Or have you been bribed?" Hua Qi stared and asked coldly. "No. Absolutely not. According to your thoughts, I have already arranged for him to stay in that strange courtyard. I even suspect that he was tortured by the Yin Qi and sealed up. He hasn't come out for more than a month. He has not harmed us, so I think." Hua smiled bitterly. He did not want to offend Yi Qing Han again. "What do you want?" "He is an outsider. Let's teach him a lesson first to prevent him from making mistakes in the future. This is for the good of our tribe." Jiang Feng, who was ranked 8th, said coldly. Except for Hua Shen, who was ranked 1st, the others nodded in agreement. They wanted to teach Yi Qing Han a lesson so that he would completely submit to the sorcerer tribe. Tomorrow is the day of the sorcerer tribe's gathering. The elites of all the major tribes will gather in my tribe. If he is really invincible, he will definitely come out and ask for advice. If he does not have the courage, then there is no need for us to worry about him." Hua Ke said lightly. "Will the sorcerer elder be angry if we bully an outsider like this?" Hua did not dare to refute. He could only use the sorcerer elder to intimidate these experts. "Hua, did you receive benefits from him? Why have you been speaking up for him for a month? It seems that I need to investigate your loyalty to the sorcerer tribe." Hua Ke frowned and looked at Hua. She was somewhat suspicious. The sorcerer tribe had always rejected outsiders. The tribe was unusually united. Hua's behavior had aroused their suspicion. Absolutely not. "In all honesty, brothers and sisters, I, Hua, can't bear the crime of betraying the tribe. It's just that I feel that he has been very honest. It is unfair for so many of us to bully one person. It will damage the honor of our celestial wizard tribe." Hua explained timidly. "Humph, Hua, you should know right from wrong. If I find out that you are working for him, don't blame me for being rude to you." Jiang Hengchong, who was ranked 3rd, gripped the long spear in his hand and warned with a cold snort. "Well, I will lure him out when I go back." Hua smiled bitterly. He could offend anyone but this group of overlords. Chapter 396. A group of people carried a large number of corpses of ferocious beasts towards the tribe. It was already dusk when they arrived at the tribe. The dark sky was filled with a sinister aura. As Hua approached Yi Qing Han's courtyard, he found that the temperature around the courtyard was extremely high. He was surprised to find that there was no trace of sinister aura. At this moment, Yi Qing Han was refining his body. The mid-grade 8th grade flame had turned the living soil into a golden yellow color. Gradually, a true body of flesh and blood was formed. The vigorous blood in his body was roaring, and divinity was radiating in all directions. From the outside, he looked exactly the same as Yi Qing Han when he was at his peak. There were no flaws. Yi Qing Han didn't let go of even the slightest flaw. Even the slightest pore needed to be refined for a long time. Right now, his Tao body was filled with the essences of the 4 elements and 5 types of profoundness. He only lacked the essence of water to become a true 5 elements Tao body. After a whole month of refining, the fire was extinguished. Fire Crow and Parrot were so tired that they fell asleep dispiritedly. As the heat dissipated, Yi Qinghan's body was bronze in color without any excess fat. He clenched his fist lightly, and a terrifying explosive force tore through the void. The body of a mid-8th grade divine martial artist was perfectly compatible with his soul. This was Yi Qinghan's second Dharma body. It could merge with the body in the ancestral land at will. By then, he might be able to achieve a top-grade 8th grade golden body. Kacha, the golden battle bone was like a fake emperor weapon. It could be as hard as a divine weapon or as soft as flowing water. The essence of the living soil filled his limbs and bones. The rich elements of the law had refined Yi Qinghan's body to perfection. The element of darkness, the Tao of order, and a trace of destruction aura were attached to his fist. Even without the azure dragon arm, his power was not any weaker than before. In fact, it was even stronger. When he punched the enemy's body, the aura of the Tao of order and Tao of destruction could easily destroy the enemy's vitality. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stood up, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. He moved his body, and a smile appeared on his face. His physical body had been refined to perfection. His nerves, blood vessels, bones, organs, flesh, and sea of knowledge were all superior to his physical body back then. Fire. Gold. Wood. Earth. Yi Qinghan swiped his hand across the void, and the four origins appeared. His physical body could no longer restrain his battle prowess. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan took out the 100,000-year-old frigid iron, the remaining boundary emperor weapon material. The flames of the fire crow and the parrot had not completely burned it. Now that his strength had recovered to its peak, he could use his fire origin and finally refine it. The four elemental origins of metal, wood, fire, and earth were fused into the molten iron, and a part of the living soil was also fused into it to refine a quasi-emperor garment. However, this quasi-emperor garment was not an ordinary quasi-emperor garment. Other quasi-emperor garments did not have the ability to self-repair, but this one, with the living soil, could self-repair. The spatial laws, yin-yang 8 trigrams array, locking array, and offensive array were all added into the quasi-the-arch robe. This was an indestructible quasi-the-arch robe. The boundary emperor robe gradually took shape and was filled with vitality. The origin of metal wandered to every corner and had an extremely strong defense. As long as he did not encounter a boundary emperor of the primordial realm or above, no one was a threat to him, including the elites of the witch race. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the quasi-the-arch robe was blown by the hot wind, and it was filled with the radiance of the 5 elements. The golden radiance was captivating. Yi Qinghan frowned. He did not want this quasi-the-arch robe to be too eye-catching, so he added some dark elements to suppress the radiance of the quasi-the-arch robe. The flowing dark light was still captivating. Whoosh! A drop of blood essence fused into the quasi-the-arch robe. The quasi-the-arch robe and Yi Qinghan's spirit blended together, making Yi Qinghan look like a divine jade. His temperament was luxurious and could not be blasphemed. He was like a peerless god descending, and his eyes could see through the origin. Yi Qinghan noticed Hua pacing at the door, as if he was thinking about something. He smiled and reached out to grab him, scaring Hua into screaming. "Who are you? Where is Yi Qinghan?" Hua stared at Yi Qinghan, his hands and feet were cold. They were both in the divine martial realm, so Ming Keir did not dare to say that she could forcefully take him away without any warning. However, in front of Yi Qinghan, he had no chance to resist. "Hua, have you forgotten me so quickly?" Yi Qinghan looked down at Hua. Although his appearance had changed, his voice and temperament would not change. His spirit would not change either. "Ah. You are Yi Qinghan. How did you become so strong?" Hua sucked in a breath of cold air and looked into Yi Qinghan's eyes. He trembled all over and quickly turned his head to look elsewhere. "This is the real me. Otherwise, do you think I could fight against the dead spirit emperor with that body of mine?" Yi Qinghan smiled and let go of Hua. Hu Hua looked at the quasi-emperor robe on Yi Qinghan and could not help but reach out to touch it. However, he did not dare to approach. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was like a sleeping sky dragon. Once he erupted, he would definitely cause the world to collapse and the mountains and rivers to reverse. "Why are you looking for me?" Yi Qinghan asked. Brother Yi, tomorrow is the day of the witch tribe's gathering. The elites will gather and discuss witchcraft. We can also sell some herbs that we don't have and buy some treasures that we really need. I'm afraid you'll miss it, so I came to inform you." Hu Hua even changed the way he addressed Yi Qinghan. "Is that all?" Yi Qinghan looked down at the young man in front of him and asked in a hoarse voice. Hu Hua smiled bitterly. He could not afford to betray the overlord of the central region. If he deceived Yi Qinghan, his future days would be even worse. "Brother Yi, don't make it difficult for me. Some elites want to see your real strength. Just pretend you don't know. It's up to you whether you come tomorrow or not." Hu Hua turned and fled. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would ask more questions that he could not answer. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and did not take it to heart. He sat cross-legged on the ground and took out the heavy berserk saber again to refine it. He also put in a part of the swelling soil. The power of the heavy berserk saber increased by dozens of times with the support of the profound meaning and laws. At this moment, he could definitely fight against the ancient demon without worrying about his body exploding. On this night, Yi Qinghan continuously adapted to his new body, completely fusing the two into one. He didn't even want to have a single flaw. The slightest difference could lead to 1,000 miles of difference. When fighting against a true invincible king, a single flaw could lead to a complete defeat. During this night, Yi Qinghan had calmed down a lot. He had cut off his frivolity and restrained his battle intent. He looked like a peaceful young master of a wealthy family. He looked like the imperial crown prince of an imperial family. He did not need to be angry to show disrespect to him. Late at night, cold winds tore through the earth. Baleful qi pervaded the air. Apart from some people cultivating in the valley, there was not a trace of life in the outside world. Hua! Yi Qinghan stepped out of his courtyard and walked out of the valley. The cold winds outside tore at his body. He actually felt some pain. As he walked further and further, he came to an ancient palace. The baleful qi here was the thickest. The strong winds blew until his face was red and covered with blood. Only a body like his would dare to come here at night. Even Hu Hua, with his powerful body, would be torn apart in an instant and die on the spot. Yi Qinghan calmed down and called out crazed Zhong. He ordered it to absorb the baleful qi and refine the blade body. He also began to refine his body and cultivate the crazed sword technique. Swish swish swish, boom boom boom, blade light crisscrossed the ruins. Yi Qinghan's figure was as fast as lightning, leaving behind afterimages. He cut through the long river and traveled 1,000 miles in an instant. Hua! A blade that contained 10,000 laws slashed through the air. The earth cracked and the mountains and rivers shattered. Fortunately, it was night time. Otherwise, it would definitely alarm the experts of the shaman tribe. Yi Qinghan put away his blade and restrained his qi. He waved his hand and the order changed. The earth shook and everything returned to normal. His body could finally cooperate with his soul and explode his battle strength to the extreme. After cultivating for so many years, Yi Qinghan did not show any signs of breaking through to the peak of the divine martial realm. He was not in a hurry. If he did not break through, it meant that there was still hope for him to improve. Only by refining his body to perfection could he truly prove his Tao. Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and layers of ripples appeared in the space. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan appeared in the valley of the tribe. Without alerting anyone, he went back to his courtyard and lay down on the bed to rest. He was too tired these days. He had been cultivating so hard that even sleeping was a luxury. Yi Qinghan slept the best in the middle of the night. Hua knocked on the door and shouted, waking Yi Qinghan up. "Brother Yi, the people of the other 6 tribes are almost here. Let's go to the market. It's the busiest day today," Hua said crisply. Yi Qinghan washed up, plucked a few stalks of 8th-grade ancient herbs and walked out. "Let's go and see if there are any treasures I need." Yi Qinghan's voice was gentle and pleasant. Hua was stunned. Hua smiled and followed behind Yi Qinghan. He said involuntarily, "Brother Yi, I feel that you've changed a lot. Gentle, elegant, handsome, and so on don't seem to be enough to describe you. Then what words do you want to use to describe me?" Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. "Monster," Hua murmured. He thought for a long time and came up with this word. "Are you praising me?" Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. "Of course I'm praising you. But I don't understand. You're obviously gentle, but I don't dare to blaspheme your majesty. I always feel that I have to maintain a respectful heart towards you. This is not good. I don't understand why." Hua was not reconciled. He always felt that he was inferior to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan glanced at Hua out of the corner of his eye. Hua's mature appearance had not faded away from his bones. With such cultivation, he would definitely be a top-notch one in the outside world. He would be invincible and could defeat most of the cultivators. He was even not inferior to some of the elders of the Kuang sect. Hua, in the face of the strong, neither servile nor overbearing. This is the heart of Tao. If you want to be strong, you must not be afraid of the strong. Otherwise, your achievements in this life will never surpass them. Yi Qinghan said lightly. Hua seemed to have understood something and nodded in confusion. Cultivation is nothing more than tempering the body and cultivating the secret arts, which is your witchcraft. The same secret art, different people use it differently. It's not because your talent is bad, nor is it because you're not as good as others. It's because your understanding is not as thorough as others. If you want to be strong, use your brain more. Yi Qinghan pointed at Hua's head and said patiently. "Oh. I understand. Use your brain more. The same secret art, different ways of using it, naturally has different power." Hua suddenly understood and nodded. The two discussed along the way and arrived at the Tigermen tribe's market. There was a sea of people. Many people had set up stalls. There were many strange things on the stalls, exuding an aura of vicissitudes. These should be things left behind from the ancient times, but people in the present day had no idea what they were. At this moment, Ming Ke, and the others noticed Hua. They all gathered around and were stunned when they saw Yi Qinghan's appearance. Chapter 397. Yi Qinghan had a powerful aura. His eyes were as deep as the stars. He calmly looked at Ming Ke, and the others and nodded slightly. "You are Yi Qinghan." Ming Ke, frowned. Her appearance had changed greatly, but it didn't look out of place at all. Instead, it made people feel very comfortable. She felt a strange feeling in her heart, and her peerless face also blushed a little. Yi Qinghan nodded and said, "Yi Qinghan greets you, fellow Taoists. This is my original appearance. I only recently reconstructed my body." The place immediately quieted down. Ming Ke, and the others stared at Yi Qinghan, their fighting spirit soaring. At this moment, Hua's aura had also changed. He had been moved by Yi Qinghan's words and had gained a lot of insight. Facing the 5 masters in front of him, he no longer bowed and fawned. Instead, he was neither servile nor overbearing. "This is my first time here and I'm not familiar with this place. Fellow Taoists, please take care of me. I want to buy some useful materials or suitable witchcraft. I wonder if you can provide me with some useful information." Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. Witchcraft requires witchcraft. My tribe cultivates the physical body. Gonggang ancestor sorcerer tribe cultivates the sorcery that controls the origin of water. Zhu Rong ancestor sorcerer tribe cultivates the sorcery that controls the origin of fire, and nature ancestor sorcerer tribe cultivates the sorcery that controls the origin of fire. Nature ancestor sorcerer tribe cultivates the sorcery that surpasses nature, and his soul is in harmony with the heavens and the earth. Our sorcery is incompatible with each other, and even if we are all members of the sorcerer tribe, we cannot cultivate their sorcery. Fellow Taoist, you should stop thinking about cultivating the sorcery of the sorcerer tribe. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. Ming Ke's words inadvertently revealed what he really needed, the origin of water. Gong Gong's witch ancestor was known as the water god. His control of the origin of water had reached a heaven-defying level. Now that the Gong Gong tribe could still control water, it meant that their tribe still had the origin of water. Yi Qinghan's 5 elements Tao body only lacked the origin of water. I wonder if a treasure like the water origin can be bought. I don't care about the price. As long as they're willing to sell, I'm willing to do anything to buy them. Yi Qinghan asked Ming Ke via voice transmission. Bo Ke showed the whites of her eyes. She felt that Yi Qinghan was an idiot. The Gong Gong clan relied on the original water power. Who would sell their lifeblood? Gong Gong clan had suffered a great disaster, and by now, the original water power was almost gone. Even some top-grade geniuses couldn't get any of it. They wanted to buy it, but no one was willing to sell. Yi Qinghan didn't need Ming Ke to answer. Looking at her expression, he knew that it was impossible. He couldn't help but feel pity. It wasn't easy for him to find the whereabouts of the water origin, but he couldn't get it. Instead of fighting with the Gong Gong clan for it, he might as well kill Yi Qinghan. No matter how desolate the Wu clan was, they could still crush Yi Qinghan to death. Not to mention, this was the Wu clan's ancestral planet. Even if he got the water origin, he couldn't escape. Is there no hope at all? Doesn't the Gong Gong clan lack anything? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked unwillingly. If I want to buy your life, I can pay any price. Will you sell it? Ming Ke asked back. Yi Qinghan shook his head. To the people of the Gong Gong clan, the water origin was equivalent to their lives. There was no room for negotiation. But this isn't absolute. In the ancient times, when the ancestor of the Gong Gong clan was still alive, there was a lot of water origin. Unfortunately, most of it was lost. Even now, there are still many people of the Gong Gong clan wandering around the ruins, looking for the water origin. It's a pity that after so many years, only one person has found a little. If you're lucky enough, you can try your luck. Ming Ke reminded him blandly. Thank you for telling me. If I really get some, I'll definitely give you some as a reward. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and said in a serious tone. Ming Ke showed a trace of mockery. If the water origin was so easy to find, it would have been found by the Wu clan long ago. Why would they need to wait for Yi Qinghan to find it? However, she didn't say anything. Maybe Yi Qinghan's luck was heaven-defying and he really found some. After all, most of the water origin was lost back then and was hidden deep underground. It was unrealistic to dig it out unless the ancestral planet was destroyed. However, no one had the ability to do so. Even if there was, the Wu clan wouldn't agree. Jiang Hengchong looked at Yi Qinghan and Ming Ke communicating with their spirit sense. His aura turned cold and he said disdainfully. Yi Qinghan, I heard that you could fight against the dead spirit emperor back then. Do you dare to fight against me? Jiang Hengchong provoked very straightforwardly. He didn't hide anything. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly, turned around and left with Hu Hua. Today, he was here to buy things, not to fight. There was plenty of time to fight. In 3 to 5 months at most, he would be able to subdue the elites of the Tiger Men tribe. There was no need to rush at all. Ming Ke looked at Yi Qinghan's back as he left. She shook her head slightly and stopped the others from continuing to provoke him. Forget it. I'll let him off for today. I'll personally meet him another day. Ming Ke said in a low voice. Just him? Is he worthy of you personally making a move? Huo Li looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain and said coldly, don't worry. After today's gathering ends, I'll immediately take care of him and let him know where he is. He's very strong. Don't underestimate him. He can imperceptibly change a person. Just look at Hua and you'll know. Ming Ke shook her head and reminded. However, how could these local overlords admit that they were inferior to an outsider? If they didn't fight, then everything would be unknown. The group of people spread out, each looking for their own witchcraft and precious ancient medicines. There were too few places in the ancestral star that were suitable for growing ancient medicines. Even an ordinary 8th grade ancient medicine was priceless. If they could find a top grade ancient medicine, then it would definitely alarm the shaman elder. Yi Qinghan took Hua and wandered around. His eyes scanned the precious medicines and strange things. His movement was very slow. Now was the time to search for treasures. Even an inconspicuous little thing could be from the ancient times. Moreover, it could be a powerful witchcraft tool with heaven-defying effects. However, after searching for a long time, Yi Qinghan didn't find any powerful treasures. The ancient medicines weren't what he wanted either. They were either too low level or too weak to be of any use to him. Hua was envious. Unfortunately, the things that really caught his eyes were out of reach. What is your common currency? Or is it only limited to bartering? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. The common currency is witchcraft crystal, which is what you call spirit crystal. But we don't use low-level witchcraft crystal. We use high-grade ones. Hua replied. How many witchcraft crystals is this 8th grade steel grass worth? Yi Qinghan looked at the 8th grade ancient medicine in front of him. It was shaped like steel, and the essence inside was very hard. It was suitable for body refinement. Hua had been eyeing it for a long time. He seemed to like it very much and decided to buy it for him. At least 3,000 witchcraft crystals. It's too expensive. Hua curled his lips and said. You ask him how much it is. I'll take it. Yi Qinghan was rich. Although he lost his universe ring in the endless universe, he still had a lot in the divine bird's ring. If he could tame Hua, it would be much more convenient for him to come and go in the future. It was worth more than 3,000 high-grade crystals. The stall owner was a middle-aged man. Judging from his clothes, he didn't seem to be from the tiger tribe. He was covered in mud and blood. It seemed that he had just returned from the outside world. Uncle Ling, how much is this steel grass? Hua asked in the ancient Magus language. Little Hua, if you have nothing to do, please step aside. Uncle Ling is busy with business. The man waved his hand and signaled Hua to step aside. Everyone knew that Hua's family was not well off. 3,000 witchcraft crystals was his family's annual income. He couldn't afford it. Hua smiled bitterly, scratched his head and looked at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and a piece of top-grade crystal appeared in his hand. It was worth at least 10,000 high-grade crystals. Yi Qinghan gave it to Hua. Hua was shocked. The ancestral star had suffered a great calamity and lost almost all of its top-grade crystals. He didn't expect that Yi Qinghan would give him a piece of top-grade crystal. The eyes of the man, who was called Uncle Ling by Hua, shone. This kind of top-grade magic crystal was a supreme treasure, and was priceless. According to the normal exchange rate, a piece of top-grade magic crystal was equal to 10,000 pieces of high-grade magic crystals. But now, it was impossible to buy top-grade magic crystals, because top-grade magic crystals were all gone. I don't have enough change. This steel grass can only be sold for 3,500 crystals at most. Uncle Ling said helplessly. He couldn't afford the top-grade crystal. Even in the boundless universe, top-grade crystals were priceless. If Quanzong didn't find a crystal mine by accident, Yi Qinghan wouldn't have treated top-grade crystals so lightly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan took out another 5,000 high-grade crystals and gave them to Hua. Hua was immediately won over by Yi Qinghan. He was not rich at all, he was rich. He didn't care about the crystals at all. Everyone's eyes lit up and they all called out to Yi Qinghan, hoping that he would come and buy the treasures they found. But Yi Qinghan looked around and didn't find any suitable treasures for himself or Hua. He couldn't help but shake his head. Hua dropped 3,300 high-grade crystals and left with the steel grass. He didn't even talk about the price. Uncle Ling was stunned. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. Hua gave the rest of the spiritual crystals and the pure steel grass to Yi Qinghan. He was so excited. He had never used magic crystals like this before. Just thinking about it made him feel good. Yi Qinghan shook his head and didn't take it. He said calmly, "I'll give it to you. It's useless to me." What? Hua was stunned. How could Yi Qinghan give something so valuable and a piece of top-grade crystal to him? He suddenly felt like he was in a dream. Ming Ke, and the others were watching Yi Qinghan from afar. When they saw that Hua had obtained so many crystals, they curled their lips and became speechless. They worked hard for a year and could only earn a little more than 10,000 high-grade crystals. Hua, on the other hand, had gotten acquainted with a tycoon and instantly obtained a piece of top-grade crystal and a piece of low-grade 8th-grade steel grass. Yi Qinghan didn't care about these things. He took Hua and went deeper. Hua's eyes were filled with gratitude. Yi Qinghan's actions didn't give him a feeling of charity. He could feel that Yi Qinghan only treated him as a friend. Whoosh! Hua quickly ran a few steps and followed Yi Qinghan. He was afraid that he would get lost. Traitor! Trash! Huo Li was furious. He looked like he despised Hua, but he was actually jealous of Hua's luck. Chapter 398. 5 of the top 10 experts of the Rushu tribe frowned. Some were jealous of Hua's fortune, but Ming Ke wasn't happy that Hua would submit to Yi Qinghan for material things. "I want to ask Elder Wu to investigate Hua. He might have sold out the noble soul of our tribe." Hua Qi said coldly. "We also need to investigate Yi Qinghan's real intention. Otherwise, why would he spend so many shaman crystals to buy Hua?" Jiang Feng's eyes were full of jealousy. Supreme-grade crystals that hadn't appeared for thousands of years had appeared, and in the hands of a tiger man who wasn't even in the top 10. How could he not be jealous? Jiang Hengchong and the others looked at each other and then at Ming Ke. As long as she nodded, even Elder Wu would have to consider. "I have my own decision. Let's buy the materials today and sell the treasures we don't need. We still have to compete with the other tribes tomorrow, so there's no need to waste our time on them." Ming Ke shook her head and didn't agree with the others. The entire valley was packed with people. There were stalls everywhere selling treasures. Yi Qinghan and Hua squeezed through the crowd and searched for the whole morning, but they still couldn't find anything suitable. Whoosh! Another group of people rushed over from the outside world. They were members of the nature shaman race. Their goal was to transcend nature, and their witchcraft was strange. They could kill the souls of experts and curse the souls of their enemies, causing them to be plagued with misfortune. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, there was no one who didn't know about them. There were two elites who looked down on all living things. Their followers were all people with powerful bodies, making up for the weak physique of the nature shaman tribe. It's Ran Qingtian and Ku Luo. They actually came. Ming Ke looked at a young man in a blue robe and a purple robe. The blue one was Ran Qingtian and the purple one was Ku Luo. Their souls were far stronger than those of the same level, almost comparable to fake emperors. Under normal circumstances, no one dared to compete with them because once cursed, bad luck would begin. Back then, there was a powerful young expert from the Xingtian tribe who was known as the #1 expert of the ancestral planet. He insulted Ran Qingtian and was cursed, dying without a complete corpse. Since then, no one dared to offend them. Ran Qingtian and Luo Ku led a group of experts to the central area. Wherever they passed, the experts gave way. Hua whispered to Yi Qinghan through telepathy. Yi Qinghan nodded and looked at the two of them. Their physical bodies were indeed weak, but their auras were impressive. It was as if they could see through the origin of others with a single glance. The souls of these two were definitely terrifying to the extreme. If a strong soul expert were to look at them directly, a single glance would be enough to kill the opponent's soul. Ran Qingtian and Ku Luo could be said to be arrogant. When they passed by Ming Ke, she cupped her fists and greeted them. They ignored her and walked straight to the center. Ming Ke's expression changed slightly. She clenched her fists, and there was anger in her eyes. Hua was very afraid of the two and quickly pulled Yi Qinghan to the side. The two of them came to a place not far from Yi Qinghan and directly took out a steel box in the middle of the road. It was very ancient and exuded an ancient aura. The runes on it were sharp and captivating. Young master has obtained an ancient treasure by chance. It's the witchcraft battle symbol art. It's not limited to the Tigermen tribe. As long as you're a member of the witchcraft tribe, you can cultivate it. However, it's not very useful to our natural tribe. So, we'll take it out to exchange for some treasures. Anyone can bid. As long as our young master likes it, you can exchange it. Ran Qingtian's follower stared at the experts and said in a deep voice. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, especially the experts from the Tigermen tribe. Their eyes lit up. In primordial times, the battle symbol art was Rushu's specialty. Only he and Xingtian shaman ancestor had cultivated it to the 9th level. His battle intent could soar to the sky. A spear could shoot through the sky. No one could block his attack. Hua's whole body was tense. His eyes were full of greed. Such a rare treasure was actually taken out by Ran Qingtian to sell. Only the natural witchcraft tribe would be so generous. They only focused on the soul and did not cultivate the body. Yi Qinghan's fingertips trembled slightly. Looking at the iron box, his eyes flashed with a touch of light. Unfortunately, the natural witchcraft tribe only needs the soul-type divine medicine. It's at least the top of the 8th level. Only then will they be interested in it. We don't have a chance. Hua said regretfully. Everyone was talking and all of them gathered around. Yi Qinghan and Hua were almost pushed in front of Ran Qingtian. I'll pay 500,000 witchcraft crystals. I wonder if Taoist friend Ran Qingtian is interested. A middle-aged man asked in a deep voice. Not interested. Don't dirty my young master's eyes with these worldly things. Ran Qingtian did not speak. A powerful follower beside him impatiently rebuked. I have an 8th grade top heavenly spiritual magic medicine here. Although it hasn't transformed, it will soon. I don't know if you are interested. Another person squeezed in, pushed Hua aside, and stared at Ran Qingtian. This person was 20 feet tall, holding a giant axe. His aura was so oppressive that Hua did not dare to show a dissatisfied expression. He could only retreat to the side. Just one. Ran Qingtian frowned and finally spoke. His voice was hoarse and very ethereal. He was clearly speaking in front of them, but it made people feel that he was standing thousands of miles away. Just one. The big man nervously replied, afraid that Ran Qingtian would refuse. Humph, you want to exchange my battle character secret art with an 8th level divine medicine? You're taking it too lightly. Ran Qingtian bluntly refused. Taoist friend, don't worry. I only want the first 3 levels of the secret art. You can copy it into the jade slip. Let me study it for a day. How about it? The big man gritted his teeth and said unwillingly. Ran Qingtian frowned and did not immediately agree. At this moment, an aura shrouded the area. Wu Lao had arrived, and Ming Ke was also by his side. It was obvious that she had informed Wu Lao. Qingtian, can you let me take a look at the battle character secret art? Wu Lao smiled and looked at Ran Qingtian. Ran Qingtian nodded and opened the iron box. A golden light flashed, and a terrifying archaic aura soared to the heavens. The runes forced everyone to retreat. The iron scroll was completely undamaged. The word battle suppressed everyone until they didn't dare to speak. It was indeed the battle character secret art. Apart from it, who else could develop such a strong battle intent? Wu Lao's turbid eyes finally bloomed with brilliance, and he had an aura of certainty. Yi Qinghan also had an aura of certainty. He was confident that he could cultivate this battle character secret art, and it was not something that only people with the bloodline of the shaman tribe could cultivate. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan took a step forward and made the first move. 5 divine lotus seeds appeared in his hand. He only had 7 left, and now he had taken out almost half of them. Fellow Taoist, I wonder if these divine lotus seeds can be exchanged for the battle character secret art in your hand? Yi Qinghan stared at Ran Qingtian and asked. Divine lotus seeds were filled with the laws of the Grand Tao and vitality. They contained all kinds of profound meanings, and were definitely the most precious of treasures. Just one of them could make a qualitative change. 5 was enough to move Ran Qingtian's heart. Sure enough, Ran Qingtian's eyes lit up, but he quickly restrained himself. He wanted to continue raising the price, but he calmly said, not enough. The battle character secret art is a supreme treasure. How can it be exchanged for just 5 divine lotus seeds? Yi Qinghan's lips curled up, revealing an unruly smile. He indifferently said, it seems like fellow Taoist is also someone who doesn't know the value of goods. I was wrong. Ran Qingtian's aura suddenly turned cold, and his eyes shot out a cold light, locking onto Yi Qinghan. Impudent! You're courting death. A powerful follower angrily rebuked. If this wasn't the territory of the Tiger Men tribe, he would have attacked immediately. Old Wu and the others frowned. Yi Qinghan wanted to seize the battle character secret art from the shaman tribe. Moreover, he spoke rudely and even offended Ran Qingtian. Although the value of 5 divine lotus seeds was huge, the consequences of offending Ran Qingtian were unimaginable. He definitely wouldn't be able to exchange for the battle character secret art, so he wasn't worried at all. Yi Qinghan indifferently looked at the follower, then stared at Ran Qingtian. Their eyes met, and sparks flew. Their battle intent soared. The two's aura continued to rise, pressuring the experts in the surroundings to retreat. Even the 6-meter-tall expert retreated to the side. It's just a transaction. If fellow Taoist wants to deliberately raise the price, then you're being ignorant. These 5 divine lotus seeds are newly born from a divine lotus that's about to transform. They're filled with the mysteries of the Grand Tao, and their value is definitely not below the battle character secret art. They have a significant effect on the soul, but their effect on me is the same as the battle character secret art's effect on you. They're all useless. If you want to exchange, then exchange. If you don't want to exchange, then directly refuse. Moreover, I don't have any extra divine lotus seeds for you to raise the price. Yi Qinghan coldly said. You're the first person in 100 years who dares to speak to me like this. Ran Qingtian looked down at Yi Qinghan. His aura once again rose and pressed down on Yi Qinghan. The surrounding experts were silent. Even their breathing could be heard. Ming Ke, slightly frowned. She wanted to remind Yi Qinghan not to resist, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Yi Qinghan didn't move. He placed his hands behind his back and indifferently said, "I'm only speaking the truth. If you want to exchange, then we'll exchange. If you don't want to exchange, then I'm not interested. There's no need to use your aura to scare me. There are people stronger than you everywhere in this world. Don't be a frog at the bottom of a well." Ran Qingtian's veins bulged. The light in his eyes became colder and colder, freezing people's hearts. Old Wu finally couldn't take it anymore. He didn't want Yi Qinghan and Ran Qingtian to fight too much, so he walked out and mediated. It's just a transaction. Everyone is willing to buy or sell. There's no need to be like this. Qingtian, this old man wants the battle character secret art. Whatever you want, just tell me. As long as I can find it, I won't frown. No need, I only want the 5 lotus seeds. Ran Qingtian didn't give old Wu any face. He looked deeply at Yi Qinghan and revealed a mocking smile. He whispered, "Sir, let's trade. I want to see how long you can live after obtaining the battle character secret art." Yi Qinghan didn't care. This kind of narrow-minded person wanted to prove his Tao. However, there was no need to argue with him. He flipped his hand and 5 divine lotus seeds appeared in his hand. "Wait, Yi Qinghan, you're not a witch. What use do you have for the battle character secret art?" Old Wu unhappily asked. Yi Qinghan was clearly causing trouble. Chapter 399. Elder Wu's questioning made the scene even more complicated, as if he was gloating. Yi Qinghan smiled and looked at Elder Wu's dissatisfied expression. "Hua and I had a great time together, so I want to buy it to train Hua. Does Elder Wu have any objections?" Elder Wu's breath stagnated. Looking at Yi Qinghan's indifferent expression, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had seen generous people before, but he had never seen such a generous person. Buying the battle formula as a gift. How extravagant. Hua was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to buy the battle formula to train him. He was so moved that he cried. What he didn't know was that Yi Qinghan also wanted to cultivate it, but he was just using him as a cover. Hua Qi and the others were even angrier. If Elder Wu bought the battle formula, they might have a chance to cultivate it. If Yi Qinghan bought it, then Hua would be the only one to cultivate it. In terms of cultivation and talent, Hua was just a second-rate rookie. How could he compare to them? But his luck was really enviable. Ming Ke, was also somewhat dissatisfied. The battle symbol art was in the Tigermen tribe. As someone of Rushu's bloodline, she naturally had the right to cultivate it. But now that Yi Qinghan had bought it, her chances of cultivating it were very slim. "You're not from the witch tribe?" Ran Qingtian frowned. His eyes flashed with killing intent. "It doesn't matter if I'm from the witch tribe or not. Do you want to see who the other party is when you make a deal?" Yi Qinghan said calmly. Ran Qingtian's dignity was continuously suppressed by Yi Qinghan, so his killing intent was released. He nodded at Elder Wu and handed the battle formula to Yi Qinghan. He also casually took 5 divine lotus seeds. Elder Wu didn't stop him. Ran Qingtian's last look told him that Yi Qinghan could live to get it, but not to enjoy it. Moreover, the battle formula was for Hua to cultivate, so he didn't give it to an outsider. Yi Qinghan put away the battle character formula and retreated to the side. He didn't really want to go against Ran Qingtian, nor did he want to offend people here. Elder Wu stared closely at Yi Qinghan, thinking about how to make Yi Qinghan hand over the battle incantation. It was at this moment that Ku Luo took out a jade bottle. It was half filled with water that resembled fine quicksand. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank as he became excited. He thought to himself, this is quicksand weak water. It's second only to the water essence. The key is that there's a lot of it. With this, I might be able to temporarily replace the water essence. Sure enough, Ku Luo said indifferently, this is quicksand and weak water. I only want to barter for treasures that are beneficial to the soul. For example, the divine lotus seed in the hands of that fellow Taoist just now. Is anyone interested? Fellow Taoist Ku Luo, trade with me. I don't have any soul-type precious medicines right now, but... A figure sped over. If you don't have any, then go away. Don't delay my sale. Ku Luo impatiently interrupted the newcomer. When that person landed, Ku Luo's expression changed slightly. He realized that he had offended someone, and this person's background wasn't small. Gong Gong's direct descendant, Gong Shen, was known as the water god who could return to his ancestral roots. He was a super-existence among the younger generation of the 8 major tribes. In terms of fame, he was much more famous than Ming Ke. So it's Gong Shen. Greetings. Ku Luo bowed slightly to express his apology. It's fine. Gong Shen looked very fair and handsome like a woman. Compared to him, Hua Qi was so ashamed that he could die. Fellow Taoist Ku Luo, this quicksand and weak water is the most precious treasure of my tribe. We can't let it fall into the hands of others. As long as you agree, you can come with me to the tribe. As long as you like it, you can take it. Gong Shen said in a deep voice. Ku Luo frowned. The Gong Gong clan's belongings might be precious, but they were useless to him. I'm sorry, but I don't need those. If you really need them, then exchange them with soul-type pills. Ku Luo refused. On the path of cultivation, strength was everything. Face was worth nothing. Quicksand and weak water were treasures in the eyes of outsiders, but they didn't need them. It was just like how Ku Luo looked at other treasures. As long as they weren't soul-type pills or precious medicines, they were all trash. Therefore, up until now, only Gong Shen had acted on behalf of the Gong Gong clan. No one from the other tribes was willing to buy them. Yi Qinghan was waiting for Gong Shen to give up. He wouldn't offend anyone if he acted on his own. How could Gong Shen be willing to give up? So much quicksand and weak water was worth more than a drop of water origin. Fellow Taoist, why are you so stubborn? Apart from my tribe, which other tribe would pay such a high price to buy this? They don't need it at all. Gong Shen stared at Ku Luo, hoping that he would change his mind. However, Ku Luo looked at Yi Qinghan. He really wanted him to take out 5 more divine lotus seeds in exchange. No, he was even willing to take out 4. Gong Shen also looked at Yi Qinghan and couldn't help but frown. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly asked, Fellow Taoist, do you have any more divine lotus seeds? I'm willing to exchange them with anything. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He needed the water origin himself, so how could he be willing to exchange with Gong Shen? Fellow Taoist Gong Shen, I also need quicksand and weak water. If you can take out something that fellow Taoist Ku Luo likes, I won't fight with you. If you can't, I'll make a move. Yi Qinghan casually did Gong Shen a favor. However, he could tell that Gong Shen didn't have any such precious medicines. Otherwise, he would have snatched them long ago. Gong Shen was helpless. The water origin was too rare. Only the clan elder had a bit. If he could obtain quicksand and weak water now, it would be equivalent to obtaining a drop of water origin. His battle strength would double. Watching the treasure slip away in front of his eyes was more painful than having his heart beaten. Since Yi Qinghan took the initiative to give in, Gong Shen had nothing to say. If I use the rest, I can give it to fellow Taoist as a greeting gift. How about it? Yi Qinghan didn't want to offend too many people, so he took the initiative to show goodwill to Gong Shen. After all, offending Ran Qingtian was enough. After all, this wasn't his battlefield. Gong Shen's eyes lit up. This was very generous. Yi Qinghan took the initiative to show goodwill. If he didn't accept it, his heart would be too big. Many thanks, fellow Taoist. Take the quicksand and weak water first. Gong Shen hurriedly said. Yi Qinghan looked at Ku Luo and said in a serious tone, fellow Taoist, give me a straightforward price. If I can afford it, I will definitely buy it. If you ask for too much, I will not bargain. For divine lotus seeds, how about it? Ku Luo knew that the quicksand and weak water was inferior to the battle symbol art, but he still wanted to sell it for a high price. Yi Qinghan didn't hesitate to nod in agreement. With the quicksand and weak water, it was equivalent to gathering the 5 elemental Tao body origins. Even if he couldn't find the water origin in the future, his battle strength wouldn't be too bad. This was a supreme treasure. He didn't need the divine lotus seeds anymore. It was definitely worth it to exchange for this item. He gave the 4 divine lotus seeds to Ku Luo and received the jade bottle. His eyes flashed as he prepared to leave. He wasn't as stupid as the parrot who hid all the treasures he obtained. Only by using them could he save his life. Gong Shen looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly. This supreme treasure was too important, especially to him. Yi Qinghan looked at the half bottle of quicksand and weak water. He needed about half, but he didn't directly give half to Gong Shen. Fellow Taoist, how much do you have left? I am willing to buy it at a high price. Gong Shen asked in a deep voice. I used about half, but it depends on the situation. Come to my courtyard 3 days later to get it. Yi Qinghan smiled. He decided to recruit this supreme monster first. Whether or not he could leave the ancestral star would depend on him. Yi Qinghan took Hua and left. Ran Qingtian's eyes were fixed on Yi Qinghan's back. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Tribesmen weren't allowed to kill each other, but killing outsiders was still allowed. Hua Qi, Hua Li, and the others were filled with jealousy and hatred. They stared at Yi Qinghan and Hua's back as they left. They were unwilling to give up and directly rushed over. Yi Qinghan, do you dare to fight with me? If I lose, you can do whatever you want with me. If I win, you have to return the battle character formula to my tribe. Hua Li shouted angrily. Elder Wu didn't stop him, nor did KK, her. The others were just watching the show. Yi Qinghan frowned and coldly said, first of all, this battle character formula was exchanged with a supreme treasure. What do you mean by returning it to your tribe? Are you saying that I stole your battle character formula? Even if you want to lie through your teeth, you have to look at the situation. There are so many people watching. Also, I really don't need to do anything to beat you. 5 days later, you and Hua will fight. If you win, I will give you the battle character formula. Hua Li was instantly enraged. Hua's battle prowess was not bad, but in front of the top 10 elites, he was just a piece of trash that couldn't even be supported by mud. Yi Qinghan was simply humiliating him. You are looking down on me. Hua Li shouted angrily. Yes, I am looking down on you. If you have nothing to do, scram. Yi Qinghan said disdainfully. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had never seen such a strong man before. Especially in the Tigermen tribe, where females flourished and males declined. There really weren't many people like Yi Qinghan who was so overbearing. He didn't give them any face and said that he looked down on his opponent in front of everyone. Yi Qinghan, remember what you said today. Hua Qi saw that his brother was humiliated and immediately became angry. He coldly reprimanded. My memory has always been bad towards unimportant people. I don't know you. If you want to challenge me, then come at me together in 5 days. If Hua loses, I will give you the battle character formula. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Fellow Yi, the two of them are still children. You don't have to take them seriously. Old Wu's eyes flickered as he spoke. Old Wu, you don't have to get involved in this matter. This battle character formula belongs to your tribe, I will not take it away. However, since I use treasures to exchange for it, I naturally have the right to decide who to let cultivate it. Hua is the only one I approve of for now. I hope Old Wu won't make things too difficult for me. Yi Qinghan said lightly. Alright, I won't get involved in this matter. However, let's forget about the bet. I want to see if Hua can really defeat Huoli and Huiqi. If he can, I will personally teach him a thing or two. Old Wu continued to talk about the bet. He wanted to confirm this bet. Yi Qinghan wasn't stupid. He knew that Old Wu wanted to control the battle character formula in his hands, so he said, the bet has already been said. I will not change it. However, I don't want anyone to use the tribe's righteousness to suppress Hua. I also don't want anyone to threaten him. I think Old Wu also wants a peerless genius to appear in the tribe, right? Don't worry, this is a fair competition. There will definitely not be anyone interfering. I really want to see fellow Ye's ability to teach. I want to see if fellow Yi can let Hua be reborn in 5 days and defeat Huiqi and Huoli, Old Wu quickly guaranteed. Chapter 400. Returning to the courtyard, Hua's expression changed. He never thought that Yi Qinghan would place such a huge bet on him. The feeling of being recognized was too blissful and touching. Big brother Yi. Hua murmured. He didn't know what to say. In fact, he also understood that if he wanted to be reborn within 5 days, it would be extremely difficult to win against either Huiqi or Huoli. If the brother and sister joined forces, they might be able to defeat the 8th-ranked Jiang Feng. Don't disappoint me. These 3 days will be like hell for you. If you really want to be invincible, then grit your teeth and hold on. If you don't have the courage, then give the battle formula to Elder Wu and tell the tribe that you're a waste. Yi Qinghan said coldly. I'm not a waste. I want to win against them. Hua's face was red as he looked up at Yi Qinghan. He clenched his fist and said, Brother Yi taught me that I can endure any hardship. Body refinement, train your body to be as strong as mine. In these 3 days, I will let the God-slaying eagle use the 8th grade fire origin to refine your body. Once the refinement starts, it will end with death. Yi Qinghan stared at Hua and said seriously. Okay. Hua replied seriously. Yi Qinghan took out a divine lotus seed, 2 stalks of 8th grade ancient herbs, and some earth origin energy. He gave them all to the God-slaying eagle. The God-slaying eagle transformed into a middle-aged man with an explosive strength like a ferocious dragon. Help him refine his body during the day and throw him outside the tribe's formation at night. We'll talk about other things after I come out of seclusion 3 days later. Yi Qinghan said indifferently and turned to leave. The God-slaying eagle grinned evilly and the hellish training began. Hua! Ah! With a swipe of his palms, the fire burned and drowned Hua. His screams tore through the void and spread to the market, making people feel disgusted. Refining the body, what are you screaming for? You can't even bear this little bit of hardship, and you still want to become a supreme master. The God-slaying eagle scolded disdainfully. Hua's body twitched and his tiger body changed shape. His bones were twisted and his skin melted. However, he gritted his teeth and endured the pain. Tears of blood burst out, but he didn't make a sound. Whoosh, the God-slaying eagle injected an ancient medicine into Hua's body. In the early stage, it took the initiative to help Hua mobilize his true essence and began to temper his body. After Hua entered the state, the extreme pain and excitement made him groan incessantly. Time passed bit by bit. Hua's tiger body was forcibly twisted into a human form. This kind of pain was not something an ordinary person could endure, but Hua endured it. However, a shrill scream was heard again, piercing through the clouds. The divine lotus seed was injected into Hua's consciousness, and spiritual qi filled his entire body. The great Tao precepts could be seen clearly, helping Hua's soul to grow tremendously. The runes of the great Tao filled his entire body, helping him to temper his Tao body. In one afternoon, Hua completely understood what the hell Yi Qing Han was talking about was. His flesh and blood were completely burned, his bones were melted and twisted, and his internal organs were refined over and over again. He fainted several times but was awakened by the god-slaying eagle. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in the evening, Hua was gasping for breath. His eyes were full of horror. He really did not want to endure this kind of physical training. I'll give you 2 hours to recover. Adjust your body to the best condition. Otherwise, don't blame me if you die. The god-slaying eagle threatened. Hua's body trembled. He quickly swallowed an 8th-grade ancient medicine and desperately absorbed the spiritual energy. In the end, he felt it was too slow and took out a high-grade spirit crystal. Every pore in his body was absorbing energy. In the outside world, because the assembly would take 3 to 5 days, no one left. They camped on the plains and set up tents. The Tigermen tribe began to busy themselves. They delivered food and necessities, forgetting about Hua. Yi Qing Han was in his room. He directly took out quicksand and weak water and began to integrate it into his body. Because he understood the essence of water, this integration was unimaginably easy. The quicksand-like water flowed through his limbs and bones, tempering every inch of his body. It made one's hair stand on end. Time passed slowly. Yi Qing Han did not move at all. His skin began to move as if it was flowing water. His skin emitted light, sparkling and translucent. 2 hours later, the god-slaying eagle transformed into his true form and walked out with Hua. They flew straight out of the tribe's barrier. This barrier only blocked the baleful aura and did not affect people. Their actions surprised everyone. At night, other than the immemorial devil, no one could leave the ancestral star. They actually wanted to leave the barrier. Wu Lao's pupils shrank. This was simply nonsense. People would die. Hua Qi and Hua Li were even more furious. How was this training? This was directly pushing people to hell. If Hua could really hold on for 3 days, even if he could not defeat them, both sides would suffer. At that time, everyone would know that they had lost. Master Wu Lao, you're not stopping them. With Hua's strength, even if he's just outside, the astral winds will tear him to pieces. His soul will also be affected by the baleful aura. If he's not crazy, he'll be a fool. Frowned and said. There's no need to stop them. Yi Qing Han dares to let Hua out. Naturally, he has the ability to keep him alive. I really want to see if Hua can really defeat Hua Qi or Hua Li in 5 days. Wu Lao said indifferently. That's impossible. How old is Hua? He's only at the early stage of the god martial realm. He hasn't learned many sorcery techniques. How can he win against Hua Qi or Hua Li? Said decisively. Perhaps there will be a miracle. However, Yi Qing Han will lose for sure. The battle character formula that he exchanged with a treasure is destined to become your wedding dress. Wu Lao said with certainty. Humph, he's too arrogant. Snorted and said coldly. Wu Lao smiled faintly and said to this old man remembers you telling me when you were young that your future husband would be a domineering and arrogant man. He's quite to your liking. Wu Lao. What are you talking about? I like peerless experts, men who can sweep through everything with just a flash of their silhouettes. They can be domineering and arrogant, but they have to have the strength to do so. This Yi Qing Han is far from that. Ming K's face was a bit red as she lowered her head and pretended to be angry. Ha ha ha, I hope he can defeat you. Otherwise, how can our tribe have a super genius? Wu Lao laughed softly. Wu Lao, you shameless old man. Be careful or I'll tell grandfather. Glared at Wu Lao. She was really angry. Only your brother is stronger than you in the tribe. Do you want to be alone for the rest of your life? That would be a loss to our tribe. I hope you can understand the tribe's righteousness and think more about the dead heroes. Our tribe needs true elites. If this Yi Qing Han is really strong, you might be able to borrow his seed to give birth to a child. Wu Lao shook his head and smiled bitterly. No wonder you left an outsider behind. So that's your plan. Er's eyes flashed with a strange light as she said angrily. Don't you understand? Right now, the only people who can suppress you in the witch tribe, other than your brother, are from other tribes. Do you want to marry outside? Our Tigermen tribe is already weak. If you marry outside, won't we be even weaker? Therefore, Yi Qing Han is the most suitable outsider. If we borrow his seed and he is willing to work for our tribe, then we can live peacefully with him. If he doesn't know his place, then kill him. Wu Lao said seriously. Er's expression was very complicated. She didn't know Yi Qing Han's strength, but just based on his appearance and temperament, it was enough to attract all the women in the world. However, she still wanted to try and see if Yi Qing Han was really strong. She didn't expect him to win, but at least not lose too badly. Let's talk about it in a few days. If Hua can really defeat Huoli, then I'll test him. Said in a low voice. Another mournful scream sounded, making everyone's hair stand on end. When they looked up, they saw Hua was directly thrown outside by the god-slaying eagle. The astral wind immediately tore his flesh apart, especially the lower half of his body that had just been deformed. Blood dyed the ground red, and he was in so much pain that he kept twitching. The baleful aura drilled into his body and kept tearing it apart. It was even more painful than being bitten by 10,000 venomous insects. Everyone looked at Hua. It was as if the astral wind was torturing their bodies. Their bodies trembled, and their eyes wanted to move, but they couldn't. They kept staring at the outside world. After a long time, Hua finally adapted to the pain. He sat cross-legged on the ground and swallowed a stalk of 8th-rank ancient medicine to heal his injured body. He used the baleful aura to refine his Tao body, and so on. His whole body was bathed in the river of blood. He had completely transformed into a human. The tiger body faded away, and Hua's strength had a qualitative leap. The sound of bones breaking was especially ear-piercing. Even Ku Luo and Ran Qingtian felt that it was cruel. A black line appeared on their foreheads. Hua's parents were low-level tiger men. At this moment, tears were streaming down their faces as they watched their son being tortured outside. For a moment, they didn't know whether to thank Yi Qing Han for raising their son or hate him for being so cruel to a child. The god-slaying eagle's divine sense stared at Hua, not daring to relax. Hua's eyes were ferocious, and he was roaring in his heart, I must not let Brother Yi down. I must not lose to Hua Qi and the others. They look down on me and my parents. How can I lose? Boom boom boom, his blood was rushing, and the injured body that had just been healed was torn apart by the astral wind again. The medicinal properties of the 8th-rank ancient medicine filled his body, and all of them were mobilized. His blood cells were working crazily, and if he was a little slower, he would die from excessive blood loss. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, everyone forgot about the passage of time. No one thought that Hua could hold on until now. Not only did he not die on the spot, but he was also getting stronger. However, this kind of body refinement was extravagant. A total of 10 8th-rank ancient medicines, 2 stalks of top-rank ancient medicines, and 1 divine lotus seed were used. Who could afford it? Only a rich outsider like Yi Qing Han would spend such a large amount of money to raise an unrelated person. The Hua siblings were even more furious, and the flames of jealousy almost condensed into a solid form. Seems like he might really win against Huoli. Elder Wu's lips curled up. He obviously didn't want Hua to win. In this battle, Huoli must win beautifully. The battle character formula must be obtained, and there was no room for mistakes. Chapter 401. Huoli, Huaqi, come with me. Old Wu sneered. He was prepared to fight it out with Yi Qinghan to see who was better at teaching his disciple. The Tigermen tribe was bustling with noise and excitement. Elder Wu squinted his eyes and looked at Hua. He realized that his body was radiating with divinity and the law of the great Tao was attached to him. Runes began to appear around his head, shielding him from the baleful aura. Look! There are runes on Hua's body. He is atavistic. Damn! The Tigermen tribe was in an uproar. Even Ran Qingtian was shocked. Atavistic was not so easy to achieve. It was rumored that the witch ancestors were covered in runes that could block all attacks. They were invincible in the same realm. If they were not besieged by countless warriors, the 12 witch ancestors would have been able to defend the ancestral star. Unfortunately, they were still defeated in the end. However, they managed to keep their lives and fell into an eternal slumber. The witch tribe left behind a prophecy, but other than the patriarch of the witch tribe, no one knew what the prophecy was. Hua's parents were crying tears of joy as they ran towards the barrier. They were heartbroken when they saw Hua's body covered in blood and wind. The news of Hua atavistic quickly spread throughout the tribe. However, Elder Wu chose to go into seclusion with Huaqi and his sister and missed the news. Yi Qinghan also did not expect Hua to atavistic. He only wanted to refine his body and teach him the battle formula. It was not difficult to defeat Huaqi and Huoli. Now that he was atavistic, his cultivation speed would definitely increase by tens of thousands of times. At this moment, Yi Qinghan's body was like quicksand that wrapped around his limbs and bones. His black hair fluttered in the wind. The fusion was surprisingly smooth. In 6 hours, the fusion of quicksand and weak water was completed. His legs, arms, internal organs, Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and did not choose to continue condensing the bones. At his current level, he was absolutely invincible among those of the same level. It did not matter whether he condensed the bones or not. Moreover, if he found the water origin in the future and wanted to replace it, it would take a lot of time and waste so much sand and water. It was not worth it. As he raised his hands, a water dragon coiled around him. With a swipe of his palms, 5 dragons appeared at the same time. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth coiled around one another, changing their shape and size according to his will. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan retracted his 5 elemental Tao body and turned into a mortal. He stood up and walked toward the valley. His quasi-emperor robe fluttered in the wind, making him look like an ethereal deity. A peerless figure appeared in everyone's line of sight. The stars moved and he suddenly disappeared 100 meters away. When he reappeared, he was outside the boundary. Ming Kei's pupils shrank. She did not notice how Yi Qinghan had left. Seeing that Hua was covered in wizard charms, which almost covered his neck, he was surprised. Hua's potential was beyond his expectation. Screech, seeing that Yi Qinghan had returned, the god-slaying eagle also sat on the ground to cultivate, allowing the astral winds to wreak havoc. Its golden feathers could block the baleful aura from invading. It was extremely powerful. The tribe was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Gongshen stepped out, and the water dragon coiled around him. His control of water had reached the peak. Even without the water origin, he could defeat anyone in the same realm. Yi Qinghan slowly turned around and saw that Gongshen had also walked out of the boundary. With a wave of his hand, a jade bottle appeared in his hand and was delivered to Gongshen. Gongshen was overjoyed. He did not expect that there was really half of the quicksand and water left. It was enough for him to use. Thank you, my friend. If you need any supreme treasure, just tell me. I will risk my life to find it for you. Gongshen bowed slightly and gave a big bow. This favor was not something that could be repaid with just a bow. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said indifferently, no need. What I need is the true water origin. You can't have it. You can refine the quicksand and water first. 3 days later, do me a small favor. How about it? What favor? As long as I can do it, I will not frown. Gongshen said in a deep voice. It's not that serious. It's very simple. Help me train Hua. Yi Qinghan smiled and reached out to grab Hua. With one step, he covered 1,000 miles and disappeared from everyone's sight. Outside the ancient ruins, the baleful aura could almost tear apart divine martial weapons. Hua's body that had just been repaired was torn apart again. His bones broke continuously. His shrill roar pierced through the clouds and dissipated in the wind. The runes shone for 100 miles and desperately repaired his injured body. However, he still could not withstand such tearing. Hua almost fainted. His eyes were ferocious. He was unwilling to give up. A terrifying will to live was supporting him. Yi Qinghan mobilized the wood element profound around his body to relieve some of the pressure and help Hua heal his injured body. Stalk after stalk of 8th-grade ancient medicine were swallowed by Hua. His realm did not improve at all, but the strength of his body was crazily increasing. His battle strength was more than 10 times stronger than before. This night was a sleepless night. Yi Qinghan's way of training people was truly unflattering. This was completely pushing people's lives to hell. If they could climb out of hell, they would be dragons and phoenixes. If they could not climb out, they would be a pile of bones. This Yi Qinghan is a madman. Everyone discussed. Indeed, he is a madman. He has the quasi-emperor armor and is not afraid of the baleful aura. However, how old is Hua? He is also in the early divine martial realm. He is definitely lucky to be able to survive this time. An expert from the Xingtian tribe gritted his teeth and shook his head. It was as if he was being torn apart by the baleful aura. Humph, I am at the peak of the divine martial realm and also a body refiner. Even I could only endure for half a night on the periphery. That Yi Qinghan took Hua to the depths. It has already been 1 night. Whether he can come back alive is another matter. One of the top 10 experts of the Xingtian tribe, Dusty, was over 2 meters tall and looked like a violent bear. At this moment, he was looking into the distance and did not see any trace of Yi Qinghan. He could not help but coldly snort. The sky gradually brightened and the gales dispersed. The dead star was still lifeless and incomparably dusky. It was extremely depressing. Hua's face was pale. He had completely transformed into his human form, but he did not completely revert back to his ancestral form. There were only a few runes on his head, but his body was densely packed. It was as if the witch ancestor had appeared in the world. Yi Qinghan casually threw out a set of clothes and said indifferently, "Come back with me and refine your body. You still have a lot of room for improvement. Cultivate the battle character art in 3 days." "Brother Yi, thank you." Hua was extremely grateful and bowed. Slap. Yi Qinghan ruthlessly slapped the back of Hua's head. Hua staggered and almost fell to the ground. He was in an extremely sorry state. The prestige that he had just formed was trampled into nothing by Yi Qinghan. He could only scratch his head and embarrassedly smile. "Instead of verbally thanking me, it is better to use actual actions to defeat Hua Qi and Hua Li. You will have to face the 2 of them together and not any one of them. There is not much hope, so you have to work harder." Yi Qinghan indifferently said. "Yes, Brother Yi, don't worry. I will definitely defeat them." Hua solemnly vowed. "Come back with me. Your parents must be worried sick. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and carried Hua back to the tribe. The god-slaying eagle turned into a wisp of imprint and returned to Yi Qinghan's arm. The two of them entered the valley together. There was a sea of people in the market. They seemed to have forgotten about Yi Qinghan and Hua. However, there was one person who did not forget, and that was Ming Ke. She held a spear in her hand and wore a phoenix coronet. She stood outside Yi Qinghan's courtyard, waiting for Yi Qinghan's return. Yesterday, she wanted to wait for Hua to defeat Hua Qi and Hua Li before testing Yi Qinghan. However, the figure from last night could not be erased from her mind. She could not wait to test him today. Even if Yi Qinghan could exchange 100 moves with her, she would automatically admit defeat. Yi Qinghan looked at Ming Ke's valiant and formidable appearance. He was slightly stunned and told Hua to go home while he came alone. "Dao friend, are you not going to the market and are waiting for me in front of my house?" Yi Qinghan asked with some astonishment. "Yes. I will wait for you to fight with me. Today, I'll see you outside the valley." Ming Ke was incomparably forthright. She turned around and left the tribe. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. Now that he had formed his 5 elements Dao body, he just so happened to be lacking someone to practice with. Using Ming Ke to test his strength was not a bad choice. However, he did not know that Ming Ke was also testing his strength. Moreover, she was preparing to choose a husband for herself. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would definitely not agree to fight. He would even admit defeat on his own accord. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan did not know this and also rushed out. The two of them were as fast as lightning as they rushed out of the tribe. They were discovered by Ran Qingtian and the other super-existences. Ran Qingtian and Ku Luo looked at each other and then led their followers out of the market and out of the valley. Yi Qinghan did not want them to watch the battle. He did not want anyone to watch, so he used the spatial laws and directly disappeared with Ming Ke. Ran Qingtian and Ku Luo were shocked. Their souls had already surpassed the limits of the divine martial realm, but they actually did not notice how Yi Qinghan had left. "This child is definitely very strong. I don't know why the shaman elder chose to leave him behind," whispered Ran Qingtian, his eyes filled with vigilance. "He is not of our race, so his heart must be different. Find a chance to kill him." Ku Luo was incomparably cold and filled with killing intent. Thousands of miles away, there was a withered mountain range. Everything was gray and devoid of life. Not even a single blade of grass could survive. Even the rocks had been eroded by the wind, as if they would collapse with a single gust of wind. Yi Qinghan and Ming Ke were dozens of meters apart. The golden spear's energy was fierce, and it blew up layers of yellow sand. A huge whirlpool of sand rushed into the sky, causing their battle robes to flutter. The two of them were accumulating their power, so there was no need for words. Roar Yi Qinghan summoned Berserk. It was domineering and arrogant, and an indescribable wildness rushed out of its body. It was clearly standing there, but it seemed like it could support both heaven and earth. Ming Ke took a deep breath, and a sharp light flashed through her eyes. She whispered, "This is what I want." Boom! Ming Ke was like a god of war. She had a peerless battle posture, and her golden spear pierced through the void. Her energy broke through space, and she directly rushed towards Yi Qinghan. The tip of her spear could seize one's soul, and it suppressed the heaven and earth, making them not dare to move. Yi Qinghan moved. Berserk swirled the air, causing the earth to undulate. Mountains collapsed, and the earth cracked. Berserk slowly rose up, and his true essence poured out. The blade was sharp and unstoppable, and it directly cut through the void and blasted towards the golden spear. Boom! Berserk was tyrannical, and the golden spear could seize one's soul. The two collided, and their chi soared into the galaxy. The surrounding mountains collapsed continuously, and the ground under their feet was like paper, breaking apart inch by inch. Chapter 402. Boom! A violent explosion shook the earth as the spear and the blade collided. The shockwave shattered the mountain rocks, and the weathered mountain rocks became extremely fragile. Screech! A sharp, ear-piercing sound tore through thousands of miles. The two experts frowned as they desperately blocked their divine senses and eardrums. Thud, 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 the two flew backward as the ground cracked under their feet. Their clothes fluttered as divine light shot out in all directions. Hum! Yi Qinghan flipped his blade and stabbed it into the ground. He only retreated a dozen steps, but Ming Ke's blood was boiling. Even with her spear in the ground, she was pushed back hundreds of steps. Her face was pale. She had lost a lot in terms of physical strength. Ming Ke was not angry. Instead, she was excited. She wanted a powerful opponent. Her physical strength was not her strength, but sorcery was. Not bad. You're worth my time. Be careful. As soon as Ming Ke finished speaking, her figure disappeared in the air and turned into thousands of shadows. Her aura could move mountains and overturn seas. It was as if the heavenly river was about to collapse and destroy the world. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The spear pierced through the air and attacked Yi Qinghan from all directions. In my name, Earth Elemental, listen to my command. Yi Qinghan pointed his blade, and thousands of miles of land were under his control. The ground cracked, and the mountains moved, defending in all directions. Boom! Ming Ke's true body only had one attack. It broke through the earth from behind and was as fast as lightning. When Ming Ke's attack hit the earth elemental, Yi Qinghan had already sensed it. He used his divine sense to lock onto her figure and violently swept up an enormous earth dragon. It roared in the sky and directly swallowed her weak body. Roar! The earth dragon carried a dense dragon's aura as it swept its huge tail, causing heaven and earth to shatter. It directly smashed onto Ming Ke's body. Although the spear pierced through the earth dragon's tail, it was smashed into the ground by the energy. Boom! Cough cough cough, Ming Ke's body was like a kite with a broken string as she crashed into the ground. The true essence energy protecting her body was scattered, and her internal organs were almost shattered. She coughed up blood and her eyes turned red. However, she was not angry. Instead, she became even more excited. Ming Ke got up and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth as she said, again. Yi Qinghan, she was a fucking masochistic woman. The more he fought, the more excited he became. He had a serious masochistic tendency. This time, I will use my clan's witchcraft. Lightning technique. Whoosh! Ming Ke turned into a bolt of lightning. With a spear in her hand, her phoenix crown and robe fluttered in the wind. She was like an unstoppable flaming dragon. In my name. The origin of wood is mine to use. The origin of wood enveloped Yi Qinghan in all directions, blocking the lightning. A huge defensive barrier enveloped Yi Qinghan, but the golden spear almost broke through the barrier. The two origins clashed, one with unparalleled offense and the other with unparalleled defense. Crack, Yi Qinghan stomped on the ground and crushed it. Twisting the tip of his foot, he swung it violently towards the long spear. The origin of metal is mine to use, all laws can be broken. Ming Ke felt as if she was in a dream. She had never seen anyone use more than 2 types of origin sources, but Yi Qinghan had used 3 origin sources. Boom! The berserk heavy blade relied on the origin of wood to block the lightning. It fiercely collided with the golden spear. The origin of metal tore through the sky and followed the golden spear towards Ming Ke's body. Bang! Ming Ke suffered a heavy blow. Her robe was shattered, and her clothes were tattered. She screamed miserably and fell backwards. Yi Qinghan shook his head. Ming Ke was strong, but unfortunately, she had met him. All witchcraft was countered. She could not use her full strength against him. Humph! Ming Ke's face was pale, and her clothes were drenched in blood. She gripped the golden spear so tightly that her knuckles turned white. It was clear that she had used up all her strength. Her deep eyes were filled with excitement. Use your strongest secret technique. Ming Ke did not care about her current sorry state. She gritted her teeth and said. Yi Qinghan shook his head. His strongest secret technique could kill a fake emperor with one strike. Ming Ke would definitely not be able to withstand it. You are looking down on me. Ming Ke angrily said. Yi Qinghan nodded without hesitation. However, when he saw Ming Ke's angry eyes, he quickly shook his head. Yi Qinghan. You are indeed looking down on me. I will kill you. Ming Ke was enraged. The true essence in her body became restless, and her chi soared into the sky. A terrifying aura erupted from her body. Her chi and blood suppressed the heavens. She actually had the power of the golden bloodline. Yi Qinghan was surprised. It seemed like Ming Ke was not using her full strength when fighting against him. Heavenly witchcraft, divine art, commanding the myriad Daos of the heavens, Dao severing. Boom! Ming Ke exuded a divine aura. She was like a peerless god of war. Her spear seemed to pierce Yi Qinghan's soul. Even the great Dao submitted. It was as if she really had the power to Dao severing. Whoosh! The spear pierced through thousands of miles and arrived in an instant. Yi Qinghan's eyes became serious. He fell to the ground and formed a seal with both hands. The 5 elements were in chaos. Metal. Wood. Water. Fire. Earth. The 5 elements appeared at the same time. A golden dragon, a water dragon, wood dragon, a fire dragon, and an earth dragon formed a golden body that swept through the void. It surrounded Yi Qinghan's golden body and changed its form according to his will. 5 elements as one. Berserk God slaying. Roar. The 5 elements were originally incompatible, but at this moment, they instantly fused into one. Ming Ke almost fell from the sky. However, the attack did not weaken. Instead, it became 30% stronger. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan attacked. A cold light tore through the void and rushed forward. It was a violent attack that could cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. It could move mountains and overturn seas. It was domineering and arrogant, causing the world to rumble. Boom! The 5 elements dragon's body emitted 5 types of divine light. It merged with Yi Qinghan and clenched its dragon claws. It passed through time and space and collided with the golden spear. Boom! 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 The impact caused yellow sand to shoot into the sky and cover the sun. The world became even darker. A sharp, ear-piercing sound tore through Ming Ke's eardrums. Immediately, blood spurted out of her 7 orifices and dyed her battle robe red. Slash! Ah! A tearing sound resounded through the mountains and rivers. Yi Qinghan was unstoppable. Berserk God slaying tore the spear apart and split it in half. Ming Ke was sent flying hundreds of miles away. She screamed miserably as she crashed into a mountain. The mountain collapsed and submerged her in an instant. Yi Qinghan turned his blade and blasted the remaining force to the left. The earth was split open by him, creating an endless ravine that stretched for thousands of miles. Countless cracks spread out in all directions like an insurmountable barrier. Puff! Yi Qinghan spat out a mouthful of essence blood. This was the first time he had used the 5 elements as one. It was extremely powerful, but he was unable to fully control it. He could not control it as he wished, so he choked and spat out a mouthful of blood. Only after spitting it out did his complexion look slightly better. Russell, Yi Qinghan rushed over to where Ming Ke had fallen. He directly used the earth essence to dig her out of the rock. "You're so strong." Ming Ke grabbed onto Yi Qinghan's battle robes. Her eyes were shining as she spoke. Of course, this was only the final radiance of a setting sun. After saying this, she directly fainted. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He reached out and checked her pulse. He found that she had only been hit and her internal organs hadn't been injured. He couldn't help but let out a breath of turbid air. He fed her an 8th-grade ancient medicine and placed her on a flat rock. He took out a set of clothes and covered her body. Then, he sat down cross-legged and began to reflect on the battle just now. The parrot jumped out. Seeing Ming Ke in such a sorry state, it couldn't help but curl its lips. It proudly said, "This divine bird has lived for so long, but this is the first time I've seen such an annoying woman. Even my father has never seen her before. I've truly learned something." Yi Qinghan slowly woke up and wryly smiled. Even Xia Ziluo wasn't this annoying, yet this woman became more and more excited. Was it really because the men of the Tigermen tribe were too weak? 1 hour later, Ming Ke opened her eyes and found that Yi Qinghan was cultivating the battle formula. She was completely subdued by this man. The 5 elemental Tao physique and the 5 elements as one, this was already shocking enough, but now, he was actually cultivating the battle formula of her tribe. Ming Ke quietly asked, "You're a member of my tribe?" Yi Qinghan shook his head and put away the battle formula. He calmly said, "I'm not a member of the tribe. I'm only studying the battle formula, not cultivating it. Fellow Taoist, there's no need to worry." "Humph. You're lying to me. Earlier, you were clearly forming seals to cultivate. I could feel the energy fluctuations from your body that belonged to a member of the tribe." Ming Ke quietly said. "Master, we exchanged for this battle formula. Why can't she cultivate it? What's the harm in telling her?" The divine bird said disdainfully. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and ignored the parrot. He said to Ming Ke, "Fellow Taoist, let's go back." "No. Tell me, are you a member of the tribe or not? If you're not a member of the tribe, it's impossible for you to cultivate witchcraft." Ming Ke stared at Yi Qinghan and stubbornly asked. Yi Qinghan frowned and thought for a moment before saying, "I'm really not a member of the tribe. Cultivating the battle formula is not difficult. If you master one secret technique, you'll be able to master all the others. It's just that there are some differences in the flow of energy." Ming Ke didn't believe him. This was beyond her understanding. Yi Qinghan shrugged and continued to explain, "It's just like the 5 elements as one. Who would believe you if you told them? But didn't you see it with your own eyes? All the techniques in the world lead to the same destination. If you're so obsessed with your senior's experience, how can you peek into the laws of the great Tao and the origin? How can you prove your Tao?" Ming Ke was stunned. She couldn't help but mutter to herself, "It seems to be true. Since ancient times, the great emperors have always opened their own Tao. Just because they can't do it doesn't mean that others can't. I hope fellow Taoist can help me keep this a secret. I don't want to be enemies with the tribe. I just want to leave this place as soon as possible and return to the endless universe. Before I leave, I'll definitely hand over the battle formula with both hands." "I won't be greedy," Yi Qinghan said seriously. Ming Ke nodded. She looked at Yi Qinghan's serious face and felt an indescribable sense of trust in him. Especially when she looked into his vast and deep eyes, the will in his eyes would not allow anyone to go against it. "Yes, thank you, fellow Taoist Yi. I'll pretend that nothing happened today. I hope you can really return the battle formula to my tribe before you leave," Ming Ke said seriously. Yi Qinghan nodded. The two of them walked side by side toward the tiger tribe. On the way, they met Ran Qingtian and Ku Luo. The followers beside them didn't hide their killing intent and surrounded them. Chapter 403. A cold wind whistled past, and the sand was mesmerizing to the eyes. The two sides faced each other like 100 meters apart. This distance was nothing to them. Ran Qingtian coldly looked at Yi Qinghan, and the corner of his mouth rose, revealing a trace of disdain. I said that even if you have the life to get the battle character formula, you won't have the life to enjoy it. It seems that you didn't take my words to heart, Ran Qingtian said coldly. Yi Qinghan looked at Ran Qingtian, who had a strange aura. He used the remaining 2 divine lotus seeds to protect his spiritual sea and fused them with the god-slaying eagle and the multicolored snake. His soul was extremely powerful, and he immediately replied, "Unfortunately, I'm already enjoying the battle character formula." "You've cultivated the battle character formula? I'd like to see how much power you can use." Ran Qingtian's aura became cold. The terrifying aura seemed to lock Yi Qinghan's soul, and he couldn't get rid of it. "Ran Qingtian, what do you want to do?" "Fellow Daoist, Yi is my clan's guest. Before you do anything, you should at least consider the relationship between our clans." Ming Ke stepped forward and stood in front of Yi Qinghan to protect him. "I want to exchange pointers with fellow Daoist Yi." "Don't tell me you won't allow it?" Ran Qingtian asked indifferently. "Humph, do you want to exchange pointers? You clearly want to kill him." Ming Ke said angrily. "If he's too weak and can't even take one move from me, then he'll die. What's there to pity?" Ming Ke for the sake of your brother, go away." "I won't hurt you," Ran Qingtian said domineeringly. These 4 followers all had cultivations that were not inferior to Ming Ke's. Ran Qingtian indeed had the qualifications to not place Ming Ke in his eyes. If it weren't for her powerful older brother, he would have to consider her as a follower with such combat strength. Ke leave first. We're just exchanging pointers. We're not really going to kill him. Ku Luo looked at Ming Ke and said indifferently. "Brother Ku Luo, are you going to besiege him?" Ming Ke frowned, unwilling to leave. "Besiege? Ha ha ha, it seems that you've lost to him. Do you think we need to besiege him just because we beat you? Which of the 4 guards by my side do you think is worse than you?" Ran Qingtian laughed wildly and mocked. Yi Qinghan patted Ming Ke's shoulder, indicating for her to step back. However, Ming Ke was unwilling and said, "Don't worry about this. I'll handle it." Ran Qingtian and Ku Luo frowned. Their faces gradually turned cold. They looked at Yi Qinghan disdainfully, hoping to provoke him so that he would attack first. However, Ming Ke grabbed Yi Qinghan's arm and looked straight at the crowd. "Now that Yi Qinghan is my husband and Elder Wu has agreed, if you want to challenge him, you have to follow the clan's rules. With the consent of the shaman elders of both clans, this is a fair and just duel." Ran Qingtian and the others were stunned. They didn't expect Ming Ke to say that. Once Yi Qinghan married Ming Ke he would be considered a member of the Sorcerer clan. The Sorcerer clan had very few people now, so infighting was strictly prohibited. If the younger generation fought against each other, they had to get the approval of an expert at the Elder Wu level or above. Yi Qinghan wanted to break free from Ming Ke's grip, but Ming Ke held on tightly. She kept signaling with her eyes and secretly transmitted a message. "Believe me. Don't fight with them here. You don't understand them. If you fight here, you'll definitely die." Yi Qinghan was also restraining himself. He didn't attack because if he killed them now, he wouldn't be able to leave the Sorcerer clan's ancestral planet. He would definitely be retaliated against by the Sorcerer clan. There was no need to act impulsively and delay his plan. Yi Qinghan, what's wrong? Do you only know how to hide behind a woman and cry? Ran Qingtian sneered coldly. Yi Qinghan sneered but didn't answer. Ming Ke, exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. She was afraid that Yi Qinghan's impulsiveness would cause a disaster. Seeing Ran Qingtian and the others ridiculing Yi Qinghan, she couldn't help but angrily say, Ran Qingtian, don't go too far. He's now a member of my clan. If you want to attack, you have to follow the rules. Once the Elder Wu agrees, you can have a life or death battle. I don't think you can win against him. Alright, you said it. I'll apply to the Elder Wu of the two clans. Ran Qingtian could see that Ming Ke wanted to protect Yi Qinghan, but there was nothing he could do. The clan strictly prohibited infighting. As a top expert of the clan, he didn't dare to violate the rules of the world. Ku Luo and the others turned and left. Before they left, they looked deeply at Yi Qinghan. Their expressions were strange and unfathomable. Yi Qinghan was very calm. His fingertips were trembling. His desire to find the true origin of water was even stronger. If he could form the true five elements body, perhaps he could use the five elements escape technique to find a way to leave. Big brother Yi, let's go back. Ming Ke's face was slightly red as she whispered softly. Even she found it hard to believe that she could say such gentle words. She shyly lowered her head to her chest. Yi Qinghan didn't think about these things. He wasn't narcissistic enough to think that women would fall in love with him when they saw him. He followed Ming Ke and sped away, planning his next itinerary. When they returned to the clan, it was already evening. Hua had been cultivating and tempering his body. His progress was amazing, and all the medicinal properties were taking effect. The shaman seal on his body was even more soul-stirring. It even alerted the clan elder, Ming Ke's grandfather. The first thing Ming Ke did when she returned to the clan was to find the clan elder, Sage Kue. Grandpa. Ming Ke nervously tugged at the corner of her clothes, not daring to raise her head. Sage Kue looked to be in his 50s or 60s. He had a ruddy complexion and was full of vigor. His aura was restrained, but he didn't show any anger. She couldn't tell what cultivation level he had reached, but he was definitely much stronger than the shaman elder. What's the matter with that Yi Qinghan? Sage Kue asked solemnly. Grandpa, he's an outsider. He entered the ancient purgatory because he fought against the dead spirit emperor. He accidentally discovered the passage here and entered the sorcerer race. He doesn't have any ill intentions towards our race. Grandpa, please understand, hurriedly explained. A strange expression appeared on Sage Kue's solemn face, as if he had seen through everything. He can fight with the dead spirit emperor. Even I don't have the confidence to do so. Sage Kue didn't believe it and directly questioned. Grandpa, I believe what he said. He might really be able to survive. Moreover, he used the great emperor's corpse and has the great emperor's Dao fruit. It's not too unbelievable that he could kill the dead spirit emperor, right? Ming Ke explained. I heard that you challenged him. Now you're speaking up for him. Did you lose? Are you interested in him? Sage Kue revealed a strange smile and teased. Grandpa. I lost. I lost so miserably. Ming Ke blushed and clenched her fists. Not only did she not hate Yi Qinghan, but she also admired him. Oh. It seems like he's quite capable to be able to defeat my precious granddaughter. Tell me, how did he defeat you? Sage Kue revealed a benevolent side and slowly sat down. He gestured for Ming Ke to sit down as well. Ming Ke hesitated for a moment. She didn't know if she should tell her benevolent and domineering grandfather everything about Yi Qinghan. After pondering for a long time, Ming Ke fainted and said, I was knocked unconscious by his saber strike. He only used one saber strike. I feel that he's stronger than my brother. What? What move did you use? Sage Kuei was shocked. Someone who could defeat Ming Ke in one move was definitely the great emperor's strength when he was young. Cutting Dao. My strongest move. Ming Ke smiled bitterly. Sage Kuei remained silent for a long time. The room was deathly silent. Ming Ke didn't dare to say anything. She was afraid that Sage Kuei would be wary and kill Yi Qinghan in the cradle. Grandpa, I like him. Furthermore, he can't go back. He doesn't mean any harm to our race. Can you not kill him? Ming Ke looked at the old man and whispered. You like him? Sage Kuei murmured. His eyes flashed as he asked hoarsely, how can you be sure that an outsider like him will sincerely marry into our race? Ke is confident. I can make his heart belong to me. Ming Ke replied seriously. Ke, you're putting the cart before the horse. You can dual cultivate with him and have children with him. However, don't fall in love with him. Do you understand? Sage Kuei warned. Why? He can be of use to our race. Furthermore, we have a common enemy. Ming Ke asked with a frown. There's no why. You don't understand how sinister people can be, Sage Kuei reprimanded sternly. Grandpa, this isn't fair. If I don't treat him with sincerity, how can he dual cultivate with me? If I do treat him with sincerity and you want us to be fruitless, aren't you treating me like a tool? Ming Ke was furious. She had never been willing to lose. How could she be willing to become a tool for her race to have children? You don't need to treat him with sincerity. Have you forgotten about the love goo of the sorcerer tribe? He will fall in love with you. After sex, you will be able to absorb all of his life essence and condense it into a seed. The child you give birth to will definitely be a transcendent being. Our race will definitely be glorious. Sage Kuei said coldly. Ming Ke sucked in a breath of cold air. Her eyes were filled with shock. Yi Qinghan didn't know that the sorcerer tribe's elder was scheming against him. He looked at who was cultivation and left the god-slaying eagle by his side while he returned to his room. He took out the battle incantation. The sorcerer runes on it were hard to understand. The killing aura was so sharp that ordinary souls and bodies couldn't withstand it. Yi Qinghan memorized it all and began to comprehend it slowly. The battle incantation was an Archean sorcery. It was the most powerful secret skill of the sorcerer tribe. With the battle spirit alone, it could suppress the heavens. It was on par with the battle spirit of the Zhan family. However, it was fundamentally different from the real secret skill. The secret skill of the Zhan family relied on the bloodline. Only a real battle spirit could unleash its true power. However, the battle incantation relied on the comprehension of the battle Dao. The deeper the comprehension, the stronger the combat strength. One spear could reverse the heavens and earth, shatter the great Dao, and destroy the enemy's will. The first level of the battle incantation was domination. The second level was madness. The third level was seal. The fourth level was reverse. The fifth level was battle. The sixth level was saint. The seventh level was deity. The eighth level was annihilation. The ninth level was life. The battle incantation was also known as the 9 words incantation. The first thought was life and death, and the second thought was yin and yang. When cultivated to the extreme, one move could rebirth the heavens and earth and the universe. Back then, Rushu had only cultivated to the 8th level of the annihilation incantation. However, he had never been defeated in his entire life. The first 2 levels of the battle incantation were almost the same as his frenzy saber technique. The frenzy saber technique focused on the path of dominance and arrogance. Yi Qinghan comprehended it very smoothly. Chapter 404. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the bed. In his sea of consciousness, he seemed to see a person holding a spear. His aura was domineering and arrogant. His spear pierced through the heavens, changing heaven and earth, reversing yin and yang, and causing the great emperor to bleed. Kill! With an angry roar, the little person in his sea of consciousness transformed into a long spear. With a ferocious stab, the sea of bitterness churned and hung upside down on the other side of chaos. His aura was majestic, causing the great Tao to submit. It was just one stab. He pulled back, twisted his waist, and stabbed again. Celestial light soared into the sky as if a celestial realm had descended upon his sea of consciousness. The law patterns were so clear. Seal. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the spear sealed heaven and earth. Thousands of miles around became a cage, and within the cage was a domain. Within the domain, everything depended on Yi Qinghan's will. The will of this spear was to kill, and the heavens could not defy it. The power was shocking, but Yi Qinghan was not satisfied. The 3 moves that he cultivated seemed very powerful, but there were still some differences between them and what was recorded in the metal scroll. The power was also much weaker. Is it a problem with the circulation of vital energy, or is it because I don't have the bloodline of the witch tribe? Yi Qinghan frowned as he pondered. He felt the meridians in his body and kept probing, hoping to maximize his battle strength while minimizing the consumption of vital energy. This was a boring process. Spear after spear, stab, return, stab again, return. Yi Qinghan didn't know how many times he had thrust out his spear, or how many times he had counterattacked. It was the same. For an entire day and night, he hadn't moved at all. After stabbing out 1,000,000 times, his true essence had been exhausted, and his soul was exhausted to the extreme. He swallowed stalk after stalk of elixir. His mental strength was quickly recovering, and even increased a little. At Yi Qinghan's level, if his soul could improve a little, his battle strength would increase by a lot. His body was sore, and he felt a stabbing pain all over when he moved. The vital energy in his qi sea was pure spiritual liquid. It was constantly changing from a gaseous state to a liquid state, filling his limbs and bones. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. As long as he could convert all of his gaseous inner yuan into liquid, fill his entire qi sea, and water his physical body, it would be equivalent to breaking through to the peak of the divine martial realm. At that time, he would have the ability to protect himself against Elder Wu. Together with the 4 divine beasts, he would be able to run amok on the ancestral planet of the voodoo ancestor. He would also be able to survive against a consummate quasi-emperor. The divine lotus seed was refined, and the great Tao became clearer. His understanding of the 5 elemental Tao body reached a limit. His soul was extremely powerful, so he started to condense Jin Yuan with all his might. Condensing Jin Yuan was extremely easy. Soon, 1/10,000th of the vast gaseous Jin Yuan in his qi sea was refined. The next day, at noon, he had refined 1/10,000th of it. His Jin Yuan was simply too vast. If he wanted to completely refine it, even if he didn't sleep or rest, it would take him at least a year. On the 4th day, there was only 1 day left before Hua challenged Hua Qi and Hua Li. Yi Qinghan woke up from his cultivation. It just so happened that Gongshen had finished condensing the flowing sand and weak water. In order to thank Yi Qinghan and also for the agreement from a few days ago, he hurried over. "Brother Yi, I haven't seen you for a few days. Your speed of improvement makes me blush with shame." Gongshen happily cupped his fists and said. In terms of improvement, Gongshen's improvement was the most terrifying. With the flowing sand and weak water as the source of water, his battle prowess had increased by several times. Brother Gongshen's improvement makes me envious. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled and said, "I won't say any more nonsense. I have something that I need your help with. Let me ask Dao friend Ming Ke to come with me." At this moment, Ming Ke helplessly walked towards Yi Qinghan's courtyard. When she saw that Gong Shen was also there, she restrained the unwillingness in her eyes and bowed, so Dao friend Gong Shen is also here. It seems like I came at a bad time. I'll be going back first. No need. I was just looking for you. Yi Qinghan quickly stopped Ming Ke. This kind of free labor was not easy to find. Looking for me? Why are you looking for me? Ming Ke curled her lips and was somewhat dissatisfied. Since the day Yi Qinghan returned, it had been 4 days. She had not seen this man look for her even once. She was somewhat angry. Cough cough. Tomorrow, Hua will fight against Wuxia and Huoli. I don't want him to lose, so I want to ask the two of you to simulate tomorrow's battle and give him some experience. I hope Dao friend can fulfill my small request. Yi Qinghan quickly said. Old Wu took Wuxia and Huoli to cultivate. Do you really expect Hua to win against them? Even if he returned to his ancestral state, how many days has it been? It would be good if he could win against Huoli. He can't even beat Wuxia, let alone the two of them working together. Ming Ke speechlessly said. How would you know if you don't try? Moreover, Huoli and Wuxia's cultivation is not that high. Don't think too highly of them. Yi Qinghan lightly said. I'm happy to help. Anyway, I don't have anything to do these few days. Gong Shen shrugged indifferently. Winning or losing was not important to him. Yi Qinghan looked at Ming Ke. The expectation in his eyes made it impossible for her to refuse. Sigh, let's go, let's go. Ming Ke was helpless. She felt as if she owed Yi Qinghan in her previous life. Yi Qinghan brought the two of them to Hua's house. Hua was bitterly cultivating. His body had been refined countless times by the 8th grade flame, gradually stabilizing at the beginning of the 8th grade. Just by relying on his physical body, he could be considered strong. Unfortunately, if he wanted to accept Huoli and Wuxia's challenge, he had to rely on witchcraft. Hua, I'll teach you 3 moves. The battle word secret art. Treat these two as Huoli and Wuxia. If you want to win, you have to cultivate these 3 moves to the peak. Otherwise, you won't be able to block even one move from Wuxia and Huoli. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Brother Yi, don't worry. Even if I have to risk my life, I will win against them. Hua clenched his iron fists. The witchcraft talisman on his body bloomed with light. Yi Qinghan casually slapped him on the back of his head and said coldly, I want you to win, not die. Yes. Hua did not dare to disobey. He could only shrink his head and smile bitterly. Ming Ke frowned and said with dissatisfaction, Brother Yi, Hua has returned to his ancestral state. He represents the descent of our ancestors. How can you treat him like this? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and replied, as long as he's still Hua, even if he turns into an ancestral witch, I can still beat him. But others, I can't. Gong Shen felt that this sentence was somewhat inappropriate. However, Ming Ke liked Yi Qinghan's overbearing and protective nature. She did not know what to feel and could only shake her head and smile bitterly. Hua did not feel that it was inappropriate. Instead, he felt a kind of happiness. Being protected by someone, he would finally not be called trash. Yi Qinghan pressed down with his finger and passed the first 3 profound meanings of the battle character secret art and his cultivation experience to Hua. Yi Qinghan said seriously, I'll give you 2 hours to familiarize yourself with it. In this 1 day and 1 night, fellow Taoist Gong Shen and fellow Taoist Ming Ke will be your opponents. They will suppress their realms and fight you to a draw. Only then will you have a chance to win against Huoli and Wuxia. Hua did not dare to delay. He sat in front of his house and began to comprehend everything that Yi Qinghan had given him. Under Yi Qinghan's explanation, the profound meanings became extremely simple. He quickly comprehended what he had learned. In addition, his mind had returned to his ancestral state, so his cultivation was twice the result with half the effort. His overbearing and domineering aura covered the sky and earth. Yi Qinghan directly brought him to his courtyard. With a grand formation concealing him, not even the slightest bit of information was leaked. 2 hours was extremely long, especially for Ming Ke. She was restless as she looked at Yi Qinghan's calm back. She wanted to say something several times, but she did not know what to say. After a long time, Ming Ke finally mustered her courage and asked, "Big brother Yi, can we talk alone?" Yi Qinghan looked at her serious expression and couldn't help nodding. He brought her out of the courtyard and walked on a small mountain path. Flowers fluttered and butterflies danced. The scenery was especially tranquil. Ming Ke stared at Yi Qinghan and earnestly asked, "Big brother Yi, can you stay in the ancestral star with peace of mind?" Yi Qinghan frowned and shook his head without any hesitation. "Impossible. The endless universe is my home and I have my worries. I will immediately leave this place as long as I can find a way out." Ming Ke sighed and helplessly said, "There is no way out. Back then, in order to leave behind the last inheritance of my clan, the 12 shaman ancestors worked together to create a barrier to block the heavens. No one can enter or leave. Even if you become a great emperor, you will not be able to leave. Unless the 12 shaman ancestors appear and work together once more to open the grand formation, the ancestral star will never appear again. I believe there is a way out because I know people who have left this place before." "During the ancient era," replied Yi Qinghan. "Impossible." Ming Ke was shocked. There had never been such a record in history. "It's just that you don't know. Nothing is impossible in this world," said Yi Qinghan indifferently. Ming Ke looked straight at Yi Qinghan and solemnly asked, "Then if I marry you, will you be willing to stay?" Yi Qinghan was stunned and repeatedly shook his head. "I have a wife. Fellow Taoist doesn't need to be like this. I don't mind. In any case, you are not going to leave." Ming Ke stubbornly refused to give up. "Fellow Taoist, don't mention this matter in the future. Just treat it as a joke. I won't take it seriously." Yi Qinghan did not hesitate to turn and leave. A trace of despair flashed in Ming Ke's eyes, followed by a ferocious expression that caused others to tremble. "Yi Qinghan, don't force me." Ming Ke angrily roared as she watched Yi Qinghan's departing figure. Yi Qinghan's aura stagnated and his figure paused. He shook his head and directly returned to his courtyard. The plan in his heart had changed once more. When he returned to his courtyard, Yi Qinghan's expression was grave. Gong Shen could guess the reason and couldn't help but tease, "Fellow Taoist, you have good fortune. Since you are here, just take things as they come. Why think so much? Fellow Taoist Ming Ke is one of the 3 great beauties of my clan. Her combat strength can also be ranked in the middle. She is definitely worthy of you." Yi Qinghan bitterly smiled and changed the topic. "Fellow Taoist, after tomorrow's battle, how about we work together to search for the water essence in the ancient ruins?" Gong Shen shook his head. "Don't look for it. I nearly turned my clan's ruins upside down. If I could find it, why would I care so much about quicksand and water?" Yi Qinghan faintly smiled and confidently said, "You can't find it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You can't find it, but that doesn't mean I can't find it. I am not familiar with your clan's ancestral planet and need a powerful guide. You are the most suitable person. As long as you are willing to help me find the water essence, we will split it 50-50. Gong Shen's eyes lit up. This matter was nothing more than luck. In truth, after searching for so many years, he still hadn't given up. According to ancient records, the Gong tribe had quite a bit of water essence. It was impossible for all of it to disappear. There had to be water essence under the ruins. Perhaps Yi Qinghan's luck was truly heaven-defying and he could find some. Yi Qinghan wasn't just thinking about the water essence. He also wanted to leave the Tiger Men's tribe. It would be best if he could take this opportunity to obtain the water essence. Even if he couldn't, he could still travel around this desolate ancestral planet. Who knows, he might be able to find some clues about how to leave. The two of them hit it off. Ming Ke also walked over, her expression rather ugly. Chapter 405. That night, 1,000 miles away from the Tiger Men tribe, Ming Ke vented all of her anger on Hua. No matter how Hua fought, he was sent flying by Ming Ke's spear. He was severely injured countless times. If not for Yi Qinghan watching from the side, he would have been crippled. Yi Qinghan frowned and pulled the three apart. He said to Hua, "Watch how I deal with the two of you when I use the battle formula." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan took out his spear. His aura rose, and his tyrannical aura shattered the astral winds outside. He was like a peerless divine spear that stood proudly in the mortal world. There were no flaws. Whoosh! The spear was pointed at the two. No matter how they tried to change their positions, they could not escape from his lock. Gong Shen was shocked. Yi Qinghan held the spear and did not move. However, no matter how he moved, the spear seemed like it could pierce through his body and kill his soul. Ming Ke was the same. Her aura was completely suppressed. The man in front of her was like an ancient overlord. His tyrannical aura suppressed the heavens. When the spear appeared, no one dared to refuse. Even the great Tao had to give way. "Kill!" Yi Qinghan shouted. His murderous aura shot out in all directions. His tyrannical aura was unstoppable. It was as if thunder had struck the hearts of the two. Their aura stagnated, and their movements became sluggish. This was using the word tyrannical to the extreme. It was as if an emperor had descended and all living things were his subjects. Boom! Yi Qinghan's spear stabbed at Ming Ke. It seemed slow, but it was actually as fast as lightning. Ming Ke gritted her teeth and gathered her aura. She fiercely counterattacked. Their attacks crushed the void and collided. Gong Shen pretended to attack from the right, trying to restrain Yi Qinghan or even force him back. As long as Yi Qinghan dared to force Ming Ke back, the spear would pierce through Yi Qinghan's body. Whoosh! Whoosh! The three long spears were like ancient war weapons, shattering the strong winds and baleful energy in the outside world. Their battle robes fluttered in the wind, stirring up people's hearts. Hua took a deep breath and widened his eyes. He wanted to see how Yi Qinghan would counter this move. Whoosh! Just as the three of them were about to clash, Yi Qinghan's body suddenly changed. He turned into a dragon that coiled around the golden spear in Ming Ke's hand. The spear in his hand was like a divine spear that pierced through the heavens as it shot towards Ming Ke's body. Yi Qinghan's left hand pushed forward and knocked Ming Ke's spear off its trajectory. Ming Ke's hair stood on end. It was as if her soul had been locked onto. She couldn't dodge no matter how hard she tried. She immediately let go and fled. Yi Qinghan grabbed the golden spear and continued to sweep at Gong Shen. The spear in his right hand flew out and pierced through the void towards Ming Ke. Although he didn't use all of his strength in this move, Ming Ke was in a sorry state. She rolled on the ground for more than 10 times before she managed to dodge the fatal blow. If Yi Qinghan used all of his strength, this spear would have pierced through her body and completely destroyed her life force. Mad sweep the heavens. Whoosh! The sound of the void being torn apart shook the astral wind far away. Yi Qinghan swung his golden spear and cut through the space, ruthlessly smashing it towards Gong Shen, who was rushing over. Gong Shen seemed to be charging towards Yi Qinghan's golden spear. Boom! Poof! Gong Shen seemed to have collided with an imperial weapon. His body fell back like a kite with a broken string. The tyrannical aura stirred in his body and almost extinguished his life force. Yi Qinghan put away the spear and turned to Hu Hua. Now it's one-on-one. Or rather, I've already won. 2 moves are enough. Hu Hua gasped. Yi Qinghan's 2 simple moves could be divided into several moves. They included the first level of the battle formula, tyrannical. There was also the heavenly dragon coiling eagle hand, weapon snatching, drastic measure, spear throwing, and the second level of the battle formula, madness. It looked simple, but who knew how much actual combat experience was hidden in it? Gong Shen and Ming Kei's eyes were filled with shock. Yi Qinghan had only cultivated the battle formula for a few days. How could he unleash such great combat strength? Even if Gong Shen used the water origin and used all of his combat strength, he wouldn't be able to block Yi Qinghan's truly terrifying attack. I've given you the heavenly dragon coiling eagle hand. It's just a matter of whether you know how to use it. Do you understand now? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Big brother Yi, I understand. Hu Hua took back the spear and clenched his fists. The shaman amulet enveloped his body, and his innate tyrannical aura shot out. He stared at the 2 in front of him. Fellow Taoists, Hu Hua is still young and experienced. Please slow down a little and give him time to adapt. Yi Qinghan looked at Gong Shen and Ming Kei and said in a low voice. The 2 nodded and quickly recovered from their injuries. Yi Qinghan didn't kill them, so it didn't affect their combat strength at all. Ming Kei and Gong Shen slowed down, willing to be Hu Hua's stepping stones. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, it was almost the same move. However, when Hu Hua used it, his tyrannical aura wasn't inferior. In the first battle, Hu Hua was defeated. In the second battle, Hu Hua was slightly defeated. In the third battle, Hu Hua finally grasped part of the essence and could force the 2 to a draw. The fourth battle, the fifth battle, they cultivated until midnight. Hu Hua wore a blood-red robe and held the spear. The more he fought, the braver he became. In the end, the 2 only needed to suppress their realms and didn't need to suppress their combat strength. Yi Qinghan nodded with satisfaction and stopped cultivating. He said, Hu Hua, today's cultivation will end here. Haste makes waste. Tomorrow, you must calm your mind. I believe that no matter how strong Hua Qi and Hua Li are, they can only be on par with the 2 fellow Taoists who have suppressed their realms. Moreover, their combat experience is far less than theirs. You have a chance to win, so don't be too stressed. Go back and cultivate for the night. Fully grasp today's battle techniques. Tomorrow, your parents will be proud of you. Hu Hua nodded excitedly. At this moment, he felt that his body was extremely strong. When the shaman amulet exploded, the wind outside didn't affect him at all. If it was daytime, the shaman amulet didn't need to defend against the violent wind and evil spirit, and his combat strength would increase again. The 3 of them flew back to the tribe. However, Ming Kei was full of worries and couldn't tell anyone. Yi Qinghan sighed sadly. He didn't know how to deal with such a romantic encounter. There were still 2 beautiful women, Xia Ziluo and Jian Qinxue. According to Emperor Ye's character, he would never agree to share them with others. In order to not hurt Emperor Yi, he could only hurt them. After the battle at dawn, we will leave immediately. Yi Qinghan made up his mind. He bid farewell to the 3 of them and returned to his yard. This night, many people were destined to have a sleepless night. Hu Hua's parents, Elder Wu, Hua Li, Hua Qi, and the Tigermen tribesmen who were concerned about this battle, including Ran Qingtian and Ku Luo. They didn't know Yi Qinghan, but they hoped to understand Yi Qinghan's real combat strength from this battle. The valley of the tribe was very quiet. The bonfire burned, emitting crackling sounds. This was the last day of the market. Tomorrow, everyone would return to their respective tribes and refine all the treasures and elixirs they had obtained in this year to increase their combat strength. This night was very long for others, but for Hua, it was very short. His improvement was very fast, and every minute he gained meant a higher chance of winning. The figures of him fighting Ming Ke, and Gong Shen kept appearing. 1 against 2, he was indeed very strong. However, he still wasn't as confident and domineering as Yi Qinghan. His changing moves were like moving clouds and flowing water. His angry roar could shatter heaven and earth. That figure was like a peerless immortal, making people unable to avert their eyes. At this moment, Elder Wu looked at the brother and sister in front of him and said in a hoarse voice, "How is your cultivation of the secret combination technique I taught you?" Elder Wu. I am confident that I can defeat Hua in one move, not to mention joining forces with my sister. Huo Li said excitedly. Hua Qi sneered. Her fat body was like a violent bear. Perhaps she was the most suitable person to cultivate the battle character secret art. Good. Tomorrow, you can only win and not lose. The battle character secret art belongs to our tribe and cannot be controlled by outsiders. If you win, this old man will reward you. If you lose to Hua, this old man will expel you from the tribe. Elder Wu released his aura, causing the two's expressions to change. Until now, the three of them still didn't know that Hua had returned to his ancestral state. Otherwise, their expressions would be very interesting. It's almost dawn. You two should comprehend it well. Remember, don't be late for tomorrow's battle. Elder Wu left after saying this and returned to his own courtyard. He didn't summon anyone. Hua Qi and Huo Li were even more hurried. It was already midnight, so they couldn't investigate Hua. On this night, there was still a powerful existence that didn't sleep. That was Sage Kuei. He held 2 small black bottles in his hands, containing the love heart goo worms, 1 male and 1 female. These ancient worms were priceless. It was rumored that during the ancient times, some worms could poison great emperors to death. The sorcerer tribe was extremely powerful for a period of time. They were unstoppable. Perhaps it was because of the strength of the shamans that the Forbidden Lands had turned out in full force and killed the shamans until their blood flowed like a river. Most of them did not even see their enemies clearly before their souls were killed and their vitality devoured. They died with grievances. Have you thought it through? No matter who wins or loses tomorrow, there will be a celebratory feast. The love heart goo worms are colorless, tasteless, and traceless. Once they enter the stomach, they will reassemble. You only need to look at each other and his heart will belong to you. If you really love him, then spend the rest of your life with him who has lost all his essence. This old man won't make things difficult for you. However, at that time, you might not like this mortal, right? Sage Kuei transmitted his voice to K-er. K-er was still adjusting her breath. His voice exploded in her mind like thunder, causing her to tremble all over. Don't refuse. If you refuse, I will personally take action. At that time, you won't even be able to get a mortal and will cause our tribe to lose a future great emperor. You will be the sinner of the sorcerer tribe. Do you understand? Sage Kuei reprimanded. K-er clutched the bedsheet tightly and said hoarsely, I understand. The sky was getting brighter. Hua had already gotten up to practice the battle character formula. Although he didn't use his vital core and sorcerer amulets, his aura was not weak and attracted many people's attention. Hua's parents had prepared a good meal early in the morning, hoping that Hua would be in a good state. After a full meal, Hua put on his armor and held his spear. He walked towards Yi Qinghan's courtyard with an imposing aura. Yi Qinghan walked out and saw that Hua was in a good state. He couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. Chapter 406. Hua respectfully bowed and said, Big brother Yi, I'm ready. Relax your mind. I will only train your mind for this battle. Winning or losing is not important. The battle formula is also not important. I have already memorized it. Even if you give it to them, it is okay. Remember, staying alive is the most important thing. Understand? Yi Qinghan stared at Hua and said in a deep voice. Understood. Brother Yi, let's go to the training field. Hua said. Yi Qinghan stepped into the center of the tribe. His temperament was amazing. His handsome face and flawless body were like the work of the gods. Even if Hua had returned to his ancestral state, he was still too inferior in front of him. Ming Ke gazed at Yi Qinghan's back from afar, feeling sad and helpless. Her heart had only been moved once in her life, and now she had to watch helplessly as he went from being an unrivaled supreme being of the same level to being reduced to a mere mortal. She could imagine just how miserable Yi Qinghan's appearance would be once he lost all of his essence. But for Ming Ke, at least he was still alive and wouldn't be killed, right? Crack, Ming Ke gripped the golden spear tightly. Her knuckles turned white and her blood could not circulate. She took a deep breath and drank a bowl of wine. The emotion cup worm appeared in her stomach and occupied her dantian. It kept moving and controlled Ming Ke's Jin Yuan. But it was silent and Ming Ke could not feel it at all. Gong Gong tribe, Nature Shaman tribe, Tiger tribe, Zhu Rong tribe, more than half of the elites from the remaining 8 tribes came. They were not in a hurry to leave. They wanted to see the internal battle of the Rushu tribe. One side had the ancestral shaman talisman body, while the other side had 2 elites working together. It was unknown who would win. Hua Qi and Hua Li arrogantly walked out of the room. Jiang Feng walked towards them and reminded them in a low voice, Hua has returned to his ancestral state. Be careful. Ancestral state. The 2 of them narrowed their eyes and looked at Hua beside Yi Qinghan. They found that Hua's temperament was very different from before. It was unfathomable and they did not dare to disobey him. I heard that Yi Qinghan is really strong. Even Kei lost to him. However, Kei didn't mention anything about that battle. But just based on her attitude towards Yi Qinghan, I'm afraid that Yi Qinghan won't lose to her brother, Jiang Feng said seriously. Let's not talk about Yi Qinghan for now. He won't be arrogant for more than a few days. As for Hua, we must win. How can the battle formula fall into the hands of an outsider? Hua Qi snorted and took the lead to walk towards the martial arts practice field. There was a sea of people outside the arena. Sage Ke looked at Yi Qinghan from afar, and his eyes shone brightly as he muttered to himself in a hoarse voice, to be able to defeat Ke with a single strike, you do have some skill. However, you're still a little lacking if you want to prove your Dao. Since you can't prove your Dao, then leave all of your essence to your descendants. Hua and Yi Qinghan looked at each other, then walked past the crowd and stepped into the martial arts practice field. Their spears were sharp, and their sharpness was dazzling. Elder Wu came out personally to host this competition. Who do you think will win? Someone asked curiously. Do you even need to ask? How old is Hua? He's just a kid, and his cultivation is only at the beginner level of Battle Wizard. Even if he has reached the peak of beginner level, what can he do? Hua Qi and Hua Li are both at the intermediate level of Battle Wizard, and their combat strength is invincible. They can even win 1-on-1, let alone 2-on-1, Jiang Hengchong said disdainfully. This Yi Qinghan is really capable. He can force Hua to atavism. Someone was very envious. After atavism, Hua's status would be different. Jiang Hengchong sneered and said coldly, Hua's atavism means that his blood is very pure. This has nothing to do with Yi Qinghan, okay? That's true. Everyone nodded. I don't think so. I think Hua has a higher chance of winning than Hua Qi and Hua Li. Gong Shen knew very well how much Hua had changed compared to the Hua of yesterday. To him, the joint attack was like a piece of rotten wood that could not withstand a single blow. Fellow Taoist Gong Shen, why do you say that? Jiang Hengchong was a little dissatisfied and asked coldly. It seems that fellow Taoist Jiang doesn't believe me. How about we make a bet? If Hua loses, I'll give you 10,000 upper-grade magic crystals. If Hua Qi and Hua Li lose, you'll give me 10,000 magic crystals. What do you think? Gong Shen said with a faint smile. 10,000 magic crystals. When did fellow Taoist Gong Shen become so stingy? Since you're so confident, let's make the bet bigger. Jiang Hengchong clenched his iron fist and said with a cold smile. Humph, how much do you want to make the bet bigger? Gong Shen's expression changed, and he pretended to be angry and asked back. I heard that you once got a witchcraft art. It's an emperor physique art from ancient times. Unfortunately, your body isn't strong enough to cultivate it. It's a waste to use it on you. I once got a wind fire thunder lightning technique. I don't have any of the 5 elements, so it's useless to me. How about we bet on this? Emperor physique art against wind fire thunder lightning technique. Do you dare? Jiang Hengchong said in a serious voice. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Do you dare to bet on wind fire thunder lightning technique? Do you think I don't dare to bet on emperor physique art? But since you've made the bet in front of so many people, don't go back on your words. Gong Shen mocked disdainfully. I can afford to lose, but I'm afraid you can't. Jiang Hengchong seemed to have long coveted emperor physique art. He was afraid that Gong Shen wouldn't bet, so he kept provoking him. But for Gong Shen, how could he not think like that? Okay, I'll bet with you. Gong Shen replied straightforwardly. Everyone's mouth twitched. Yi Qinghan and Hua Qi's bet was already big enough, but they didn't expect that Gong Shen would also participate. If Hua Qi and his sister lost, the witchcraft race's Rushu tribe would suffer a great loss. Boom! Hua Qi's bucket-like body stepped into the battlefield with Hua Li following closely behind. The two were separated by more than 10 meters, and their imposing manner was so strong that Hua didn't dare to make a move. Hua was as motionless as a mountain, holding his spear proudly. Don't kill people in a competition of the same tribe. Old Wu seemed to know that Hua had returned to his ancestral state. He signaled Hua Qi and Hua Li to not allow them to hurt Hua. Fellow Yi, the competition is about to start. If you regret it, it's not too late. Otherwise, when you lose, it won't look good. Our tribe's face will also be lost, and people will say that we're bullying the weak. Old Wu said indifferently. Yi Qinghan smiled and shook his head. He said indifferently, no need to say more, I don't care about winning or losing. Yi Qinghan's elegant temperament and his nonchalant attitude towards the battle character manual caused everyone's impression of him to skyrocket. Ming Ke couldn't stop herself from admiring him. She was certain that this was the kind of man she wanted. He was refined yet domineering, calm yet arrogant, and capable of reversing the heavens and earth with a wave of his hand. Unfortunately, Sage Kue was about to make a move against him. Okay then, if Hua Qi and Hua Li lose, I can promise you one thing within my acceptable range. I won't let you suffer a loss. Old Wu said indifferently. Then let's start. Yi Qinghan nodded and looked straight at the martial arts arena. Hua raised his spear and pressured everyone. He actually had Yi Qinghan's imposing manner. He obviously didn't have a target, but he was able to lock onto 2 people at the same time. It was as if anyone moved, the spear would pierce through their souls. Shaman talismans covered his entire body, and his imposing manner soared to the heavens. He was like a human emperor, and his eyes were filled with domineering arrogance. Those who were familiar with Hua knew that his temperament had completely changed. It was definitely not because of his atavism, but because he was influenced by Yi Qinghan's imposing manner. When a person could influence another person, it meant that he had reached the peak of perfection and become the faith of others. Yi Qinghan had indeed become the faith of Hua. He was unshakable, and his actions and words carried the shadow of Yi Qinghan. Hua Qi and Hua Li's pupils contracted. At this moment, they felt as if they were facing Ming Ke. No, Hua's domineering aura and willpower were much stronger than Ming Ke's. Just by accumulating his aura, the two of them didn't dare to move. Yi Qinghan put his hands behind his back and revealed a smile. He knew that Hua had won. The longer he accumulated his aura, the more Hua Li and Hua Qi wouldn't dare to make a move. In the end, they would lose without a fight. Old Wu frowned as he looked at Hua's domineering aura getting stronger and stronger. He could tell that Hua had won, and he didn't know whether to be happy or sad. He wanted to remind Hua Qi and Hua Li to interrupt Hua's aura, but disturbing him now would have a huge impact on his future. For the battle symbol manual, the loss outweighed the gain. Not to mention that the battle symbol manual was still on the ancestral star and couldn't fly. However, if Hua's luck was affected, the clan would lose a terrifying elite. Huff. Huff, Hua Qi and Hua Li's breathing became rapid. They swallowed their saliva and clenched their spears. They wanted to move a few times, but they couldn't break through Hua's suppression. Everyone was dumbfounded. They could all feel the pressure that the siblings were withstanding. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Hua's transformation was too big. Jiang Hengchong was furious. He wanted to remind Hua Qi to make a move a few times, but he was stopped by Old Wu. Boom! Hua took a step forward. His aura was as vast as the ocean, overwhelming Hua Qi and Hua Li. Hua Qi and Hua Li no longer had a chance. Idiot! Break his momentum, attack! Jiang Hengchong roared angrily. Boom! Hua Qi's panicked spiritual awareness is awakened. She grits her teeth and rushes to Hua. Kill! An angry roar shook the courage of all the heroes. The battle spear was like a hot knife through butter as it shot towards Hua Qi. Hua Li finally reacted at this time, and hurriedly attacked Hua's body. This scene was almost exactly the same as the scene from last night. Whoosh! Using the heavenly dragon coiling eagle, Hua circled around Hua Qi's spear and stabbed the spear in his hand, directly penetrating Hua Qi's left shoulder and smashing her thick body into the distance. Ah, boom! Hua Qi's shrill screams tore through the sky. Hua snatched Hua Qi's battle spear. Runes shone for 1,000 li, and with a move that could sweep away 1,000 armies and cut off mountains and rivers, it directly collided with Hua Li's spear that was speeding towards him. Boom! Hua Li's aura was not strong enough to begin with. After being hit by such a strong force, his body was like a kite with a broken string, fiercely smashing towards the other side of the martial arts field. Hua kept his spear and stood proudly. Old Wu was surprised and happy, and was speechless for a long time. The martial arts field was dead silent. No one dared to say a word. Jiang Hengchong was trembling with anger. He never thought that Hua Qi and Hua Li would lose so miserably, causing him to lose his most precious secret technique. It was simply too embarrassing. Chapter 407. Gongshan smiled proudly and was about to leave after obtaining the wind, fire, thunder, and lightning technique. However, Yi Qinghan stopped him. The battle was over and it was time to leave. Fellow Daoist, does our agreement still count? Yi Qinghan asked seriously. Of course. I'm in a good mood today and my luck might be heaven-defying. I might be able to find what I want the most. Ha ha ha. Let's go. Gongshan glanced at Jiang Hengchong and said to Yi Qinghan. Just as the two were about to leave, Elder Wu's figure flashed and blocked Yi Qinghan's path. Fellow Daoist Yi, thank you for nurturing such an elite for our tribe. Our clan elder wants to see you. I'm sure you'll give him face. Elder Wu got straight to the point. Yi Qinghan frowned. This old fox made his words so firm and refused the invitation in front of so many people. Wouldn't that be slapping the Rushu tribe's clan elder's face? To be able to become a clan elder, his cultivation must be higher than Elder Wu's. Yi Qinghan didn't even have the confidence to deal with Elder Wu, let alone a clan elder. A strange aura filled the air. Everyone stood in place curiously, wanting to see how the Rushu tribe was going to deal with Yi Qinghan. Huwa stepped in front of Yi Qinghan to protect him and said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "Lord Elder Wu, did the clan elder only summon Big Brother Yi?" "Of course not, all the elders of the big clans will be here. This is a celebration banquet that the elders have prepared for you, to celebrate the birth of another ancestral awakening elite in our clan." Elder Wu turned and left after he finished speaking. Yi Qinghan smiled at Gong Shen and whispered, "Fellow Taoist, wait for me in my other courtyard. Our itinerary remains the same." After saying that, Yi Qinghan took Huwa to a huge palace. At the same time, the shaman elders of the various clans stepped forward. Sage Kuei stood in the middle of the path, wearing a green robe and white hair. He looked ethereal like an immortal, and when he waved his hands, the shadows of dragons and snakes would appear. Ming Kei stood to the side, her eyes fixed on Yi Qinghan. Their eyes met, but Yi Qinghan couldn't see through the purpose of this celebratory feast. The shaman elders of the 8 great clans, Yi Qinghan, Huwa, Sage Kuei, and CK, made a total of 12 people. The birth of yet another descendant of our clan is worthy of our congratulations. I've specially prepared some wine and dishes to celebrate with everyone. Sage Kuei's eyes swept over the crowd. Everyone lowered their heads, as though he could see through their souls with a single glance. "Congratulations, Your Excellency. Our clan will definitely be glorious." Everyone bowed and replied in unison. Yi Qinghan looked at the old man in front of him and felt his blood rushing in the opposite direction. This feeling was similar to when Emperor Yi wanted to control someone's true yuan. It was impossible to resist. Sage Kuei's eyes were filled with wisdom and the vicissitudes of time. He took a deep look at Yi Qinghan, nodded slightly, and led the crowd into the main hall. The tables in the hall were filled with wine, dishes, spirit fruits, and 8th-grade medicines. It was extremely luxurious. Each person had a small table, but there were no chairs. There was a futon under the table for everyone to sit cross-legged. Huwa, you and Yi Qinghan sit at the front. Sage Kuei sat cross-legged on the main seat, like an emperor looking down at the masses. His words were only orders, and there was no room for discussion. Yi Qinghan and Huwa, one on the right and the other on the right, sat at the head of the table and bowed deeply. "Sit." Sage Kuei looked down at the masses, and with a wave of his hand, everyone involuntarily sat cross-legged on the futon. Even Yi Qinghan couldn't resist. Yi Qinghan was shocked, and he sat down on the ground. His heart trembled as he thought to himself, "He is so strong, I can't even resist with a wave of his hand." This person's strength is definitely comparable to half of the peak era's great monarchs. Ming Kei, no longer raised his head to look at Yi Qinghan. He only lowered his head and continued to drink. Yi Qinghan didn't know what Sage Kuei wanted to do, but he couldn't force himself to leave. Sage Kuei wasn't someone he could fight against, not to mention there were so many Wu elders around. "Yi Qinghan, I heard that you came from outside the ancestral star. Is that true?" Sage Kuei asked with a smile. Yi Qinghan bowed slightly, cupped his fists, and replied, "Senior, please forgive me for trespassing. No one can enter or leave this place. It must be fate that brought you here. I wonder if you can stay here and tie the knot with my Kei forever?" Sage Kuei asked calmly. Everyone was surprised, and only now did they realize that this wasn't a celebration banquet, but a trap set up for Yi Qinghan. Huwa didn't understand. When he heard that Yi Qinghan could stay and tie the knot with Ming Kei, he was overjoyed, and he hoped that Yi Qinghan would agree to it. Ming Kei finally looked at Yi Qinghan with some hope in her eyes. Perhaps Yi Qinghan would be pressured by Sage Kuei to come around. Yi Qinghan frowned, but he still refused. There was no room for negotiation. Although the crisis in the endless universe had been completely resolved, the Forbidden Land was not removed, and the Kuang sect could not be established. Outside, Ren Huangyi, Si Wuxia, and everyone in the Kuang sect could not be at ease. Sage Kuei said straightforwardly, "Since you don't want to, I won't make things difficult for you. Today is a celebration for Hua. From today onwards, you will be my last disciple. I hope that you can inherit my legacy and restore the glory of the Wu tribe." Yi Qinghan couldn't help but exhale. He was afraid that Sage Kuei would force him to stay and tie the knot with Ming Ke, but he was already on his guard. "Come, give us wine. Let's get drunk today." Sage Kuei's ancient voice resounded in the hall, and a group of shamans leaped into the hall. They were dressed very boldly, and their breasts were exposed. Their slender legs were wrapped in green vines, and they each took a seat and poured wine for everyone. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly. He picked up a cup of wine and swirled it gently. His divine sense enveloped every drop of wine, and he didn't find anything wrong with it, so he drank it in peace. Everyone talked about the great Tao and the endless universe. They also talked about the immemorial era. Yi Qinghan learned many secrets, which made him yearn for the past even more. To be able to live in the era before the immemorial era, it was an era where heroes fought for supremacy. Even the great emperor didn't dare to say that he could dominate everyone in the same realm when he was young. After 3 rounds of wine, Sage Kuei waved his hand and a wine cup flew to Yi Qinghan. "Yi Qinghan, this old man is very grateful for your nurturing of Hua. Let me give you a toast." Sage Kuei raised his cup and said. The wine cup floated in the air in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan reached out his hand and received the cup. His eyes were emotionless. He used his divine sense to scan the cup again, but he still didn't find anything. However, he was a little wary. "Hua, congratulations on your atavism. I don't ask you to prove your Tao, but I ask you to bring glory to the shaman race. Everything must revolve around the shaman race. Do you understand?" Sage Kuei said solemnly. "Yes, clan elder." Hua raised his cup respectfully, not doubting anything. "Daoist Yi Qinghan is your benefactor. You should also raise your cup to him." Sage Kuei said calmly. Hua looked respectfully at Yi Qinghan. His eyes were full of gratitude. If it wasn't for Yi Qinghan, Hua wouldn't be who he was today. "Big brother Yi, let me give you a toast." Hua raised his cup and looked respectfully at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled. He knew that there was something wrong with this cup of wine, but he couldn't tell what the problem was. Sage Kuei, this old fox, had personally given him a toast and even brought Hua along. He was extremely cunning. He wanted Yi Qinghan to understand that even if there was something wrong with the wine, he still had to drink it. Otherwise, he would be slapping the face of the clan elder in front of so many people and not giving face to his disciple. It was the same as putting himself in a position where he didn't respect his elders. Poison. Shaman arts are indeed powerful. I can't find anything wrong with it. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He looked at Ming Ke, and found that she was also looking at him. Ming Ke's eyes were full of unwillingness. She clenched her fists and sighed. "Raise your cup, raise it." Yi Qinghan had no choice. As long as there was no conclusive evidence, he could only drink this cup of wine. Many thanks to Senior for the generous gift. As for Hua, this is his own merit. It has nothing to do with me. I am ashamed to accept it. Yi Qinghan said in a serious tone, "However, I don't dare to refuse a gift from an elder. This cup of wine is a toast to Senior." Yi Qinghan drank the wine in one gulp. As soon as the wine entered his stomach, the 5 elements crazily rushed over and wrapped around him. A vast amount of Jin Yuan formed a barrier, not daring to let him come into contact with anything. Humph, the moment his Jin Yuan neared the wine, Yi Qinghan's face suddenly changed. This was because the emotion cup worm fed on Jin Yuan and devoured all the energy in the world. What the hell? Master, what did you eat? What the hell is in your blood? The parrot was awakened and immediately shouted in his mind. I don't know. Yi Qinghan's face darkened. He took the initiative to disperse his Jin Yuan, allowing the emotion cup worm to wantonly devour his Jin Yuan. Fellow Taoist, Yi can't hold his liquor. It seems that he's drunk. Everyone, please leave, Sage Kuei said lightly. Everyone seemed to have understood something, and a faint smile appeared on their faces. They then left one after another. Until now, Hua still didn't understand that Yi Qinghan had been poisoned by the emotion cup worm. Just as he was about to pull Yi Qinghan away, Sage Kuei scolded him. Hua, today I want to exchange some cultivation insights with fellow Taoist Yi. You go back first. Come to me tomorrow and I will teach you some witchcraft, Sage Kuei ordered. Hua hesitated and couldn't help but look at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan also didn't want to implicate this hothead, so he waved his hand and said, You go back first. Hua would never disobey Yi Qinghan's will, so he left without hesitation. A trace of surprise flashed across Sage Kuei's eyes. Yi Qinghan was too influential. How long had Hua known him? Now, he was actually carrying out Yi Qinghan's orders without hesitation and rejecting Sage Kuei's orders. The hall was empty except for Sage Kuei and K.R. Yi Qinghan could feel the emotion cup worm wreaking havoc in his body, occupying his dantian. He couldn't forcefully kill it or expel it, so he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Haha, so this is how the witches treat their guests. K.R.'s face turned pale, and she lowered her head in shame. Sage Kuei calmly asked, What do you mean by guests? Don't you understand that trespassing without an invitation is trespassing? I just trespassed by accident. If Senior doesn't welcome me, I'll just leave. Why did you have to poison me? Aren't the witches afraid of losing face for their ancestors by doing something so despicable? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. This isn't poison, but the emotion cup worm. It's a supreme treasure left behind by our ancestors. Sage Kuei coldly looked at Yi Qinghan and said, I gave you a chance to stay here in peace. Unfortunately, your heart was restless and you didn't want to stay. The emotion cup worm. Yi Qinghan didn't know what it was, but the parrot did. The parrot's memories flooded Yi Qinghan, causing his face to turn ashen. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.